Sometimes girls are allowed a little hypothermic nudity as a treat. Hello, people, strugglers, squishers, squishos. What's up, squishos?
What the shit did you just call them?
I'm gonna fix the dog cam right away this time. We're not gonna get surprised by it.
You
We're just
call
aha,
your squishums?
squishos. You know what? I assumed the dog cam would be broken, so I have at the beginning gone, let's fix it, because I did already test it, of course, as I always do. However, I'm so used to it breaking right when we hit go live for some reason, like it's camera shy. It's a camera shy camera that I'll be right back. I'm fixing it.
Camera shy camera? You need to talk to your camera about how to camera, because that is not how. Oh, we have a person who's a lurker and a VOD watcher. Hey, Midnight. We didn't post a schedule this week, Midnight, so it's amazing you're here. So many people will be missing, and so many people will be like,
we gotta do it.
I was talking. So many
had to
people
do it to him. Hey,
and
doggy! I love doggy, and I love Walmart bag. If you're not in a place where plastic bags are illegal, you don't know the joy of a Walmart bag. I'm sorry.
Things. Drawk, apparently, I'm very quiet.
You're very quiet. That's never happened before. Wait, why am I loud? That's also never happened before. What the fuck?
Yeah. Number 2.
Why am I Why do I have real volume? Why can people hear? Whatever I did to fix my mic apparently more than fixed it. What the fuck? We're in the upgrade zone.
Not only did it fix your mic,
my main camera broke.
You muted me.
I didn't mute you. You're back. Guys, I gotta go fix the real mic. Be right back.
I think my real mic. Okay, so he's gone. So person who's lurking, we didn't post a schedule this week because Lav had the flu, Drawk was sick, then I got the flu. We all flued. It was a week of flu.
All right, the other webcam needs to be fixed now. Let's see if we can do that.
Drawk disappeared. So we are about to do
electronics.
Are you there? I don't hear you anymore.
Why don't you hear me?
Oh, I hear you now.
What?
Yeah, I hear you, brah.
Looking at my audio levels, clearly be audible, just going, what the fuck do you mean you can't hear me?
Am I still quiet, squishies, or can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear now?
Can you hear me now?
Can I tell everyone a little story?
I don't know what yep means, brother. I asked 2 things.
That's the issue, isn't it? Yep, everyone's saying yep. Everyone's saying yep.
I asked 2 different things, though.
You've been watching since the first Mom Piece videos? Crazy. Happy to have you,
Holy shit.
That's a long timer. All right, hear me out. Hear me out on something, right? I got something important. Do you know, people who don't know, we live in British Columbia.
You're gone.
Which has what?
I can't hear you. Are you talking?
What is wrong with your audio?
It's you.
It's not. I'm looking at Discord light up. I can literally see my audio levels. It's you.
That's wild. I blame you. Go on.
I literally have an application monitoring my audio levels that I can look at to go, yep, that's working.
Carry on.
We live in British Columbia. British Columbia has 2 mountain ranges running through it, the coastals and the Rockies. The Rockies are the world's youngest mountain range, and the coastals are fairly young as well, and both of them are made of really, really hardy stone that doesn't erode easily. What does this mean? Why am I referencing this? I'm so loud compared to her. This has never happened. I have to lower my own volume. This is unheard of.
I think you can hear me now.
I could hear you the whole fucking time.
Don't be a swearer.
Okay. We've tweaked the levels. I'm so used to this differently. Anyways, what does this mean? That we have the world's youngest mountain range, basically. Here's what. It means that we don't have caves here. They just basically don't exist. And whenever I watch media where there's a cave, I'm like, that's crazy that there'd just be a hole in the ground. Like, can you imagine that there'd just be a hole? Like I don't know if anyone lives in like Appalachia or somewhere else where there's caves, but caves feel crazy to me living where we live. Don't caves feel kind of crazy to you?
They do. I know of 2 caves on the island.
And they're tiny though. They're like really little.
In comparison to the people who I watch go through caves on the tubes of you, they're pretty little.
Yeah, because like I feel like people who have real caves, right? Like people who live in a place where their caves aren't a joke, they feel about our caves being called caves the way I feel about people who have big hills calling them mountains when we grew up in a mountain zone with all the real mountains, you know?
The other thing about having young mountains, I was watching some people go up to the areas we used to live. They took the back road, the Telqua High Road back road,
Okay.
in a two-wheel drive van, fully loaded, which was a choice. I'm watching on the tubes of you, and then they got up into the other area we used to live, way in the back country, and they put up their camera and flew around with their drone, and I just kept looking at the mountains and being like, God damn, like they look young. They're so vibrant and huge and rocky,
Yeah.
and the sides haven't been worn off, and they're just like, I'm a goddamn mountain. But you're
True.
right, no caves.
No caves. We don't have caves, and it's weird. It feels so crazy to look at media where there's a cave and be like, guys, hear me out. Crazy. It's crazy to think that there's just holes. Did you guys think about that? That if you live in Appalachia, there's just holes? Like, you just go outside and there's holes? That's fucked. How do you live in a place with holes in it?
And whenever we talk about cave people and living in places like that, I'm always like, how do you find enough of those? Those are just
How do you
laying
find
around
enough
everywhere.
caves? I genuinely feel about caves the way people feel about, like, you know how people are like, whoa, blank is real? Like, I know a lot of people who were shocked that Romani people were real because they're always in fantasy media. They're like, whoa, that's a real thing. I feel that way about caves sometimes. Like, I find out caves are real and I'm like, that's crazy.
You feel the way about caves I used to feel about moose.
Yeah, where you were like, that's a mythical creature.
And then you would be like, there's pictures of them. I'm like, there's pictures of unicorns too. It doesn't make it real.
And in
Yeah,
France,
in
there's
France, there
limestone
is
caves people
limestone
live in.
caves.
What?
Yes. And
France,
when I was
no.
in France in this one part, I went to, I'm going to say this wrong. Sorry, people from France. The Fontaine de Vaucluse in the area around Avalon. And they have like, it's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. It has this super, super deep spring that comes up that Jacques Cousteau, who was an ocean explorer, took a mini submarine down. Every once in a while, it spits out golden Roman coins because I guess they used to throw them in there for, I don't know, the first fountain wishes or whatever. And it's like this incredible place. And I thought it was only based on this. And then there's an aqueduct. And then you look up and there's these weird caves all over the hills. And in this tiny, tiny place, there's a museum because it's one of the best places where you can see like cave people's homes and dwellings. And they talk about like how many there were across this area. And I had the same moment as you where I just stood there like, shit, are there so many goddamn caves for these people?
How do you should look up the cenotes in Mexico.
Cenotes.
Dude, cenotes are so cool. You know what's wild is cenotes? This is crazy. Cenotes feel less surprising to me than caves.
Things opening up underneath your ass and having a pool. Yeah, I'm in there. I'm in there for that.
Yeah, I don't know. That just feels like it makes sense somehow. I don't know why. I love cenotes. Cenotes are so sick.
Weird that you're talking about caves since recently I've gotten back into watching these two weirdos who just have no experience and just started wearing. They just started wearing helmets recently, and they just are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go through this cave," and you're like, "What?"
Well, I'm talking about caves because we're talking about the Casca arc, which we have mixed feelings about. Although Casca and Fight to Survive are technically labeled as different. Casca is more about the flashback. Anyways, or is it called Fight to Survive? It's called something. Who cares? Bonfire Dreams is what today's about. But when they get in the cave, I'm like, caves? That's crazy. Imagine finding that. Imagine a hole. Imagine there's just a hole in the ground and you just find it.
I bet you if you live in these places, you don't have to survive in the same way. You get out in the wilderness and you're like, step one, find an empty cave.
Yeah, that's absolutely got to be real. Like, step one, especially considering, like, in modern day, so much of Europe has killed all their bears. So there's not, if you find a cave, there's nothing in it, right? Like, if you're lost in Appalachia, cave can't be safe, right?
No, that's bearish.
There's a bear in it. Every cave in Appalachia has to have a bear in it. That's got to be a rule, right?
It's
But then, like,
and
this Yogi zone,
going,
this Yogi's world.
Do you have a
mountain
picnic
lion
for me?
Well, pantsless, we have mountain lions here, but we don't have caves is the thing. So it doesn't matter. The mountain lions, I guess, sleep under a log or something. But
I
like,
feel
if
bad
you get
for mountain lions.
I have been lost in the woods in BC, and it was in a park, so it's not even that much zone, right? And like, I think you would die. I think if you were lost in the woods for real in BC, you'd die. because it's nothing but bushes and swampy ground and a tangle of foliage so dense and complete that you are struggling for every step you take, needing to rip your way through intertangling webs of branches to make even the smallest footfall. That's what getting lost in the woods is here. No caves in sight, swampy, disgusting ground, rotting logs. Like, it's a rainforest, right? And it's horrible. It is consuming, constricting. It drains your stamina to try to move at all. And I feel like if you're lost in the woods in Europe at this point, where like the bushes are mostly cleared out and all of the caves are free of bears, it's got to be a fucking cakewalk.
You can see more of the forest through the trees, but
yeah, I'm
I
talking
was
Western
surprised
Europe.
about how much nature there was in like France and Italy and stuff. I
Oh
was
no,
like,
I know they got nature, but like it's not a rainforest, and it's not like they have caves and they don't have bears. I feel like it's got to be easier.
they
I
also
feel like
don't
it's
have the Soleil ripping away at your soul when you try to move through the bush.
yeah, baby, yeah.
Ancient bears, and now the bears don't dig caves. Well, we have lots of bears though. We have so
We
many
do have
bears.
we have so many bears. The mountains are built too strong for the bears, though.
I only
All right.
wish that we had bears making me some caves right now in my backyard because I live on a mountain. with
Jelly
no-
Gremlin, entering a cave is a big boo boo, but do you mean in Appalachia or Europe? Because I feel like in
No,
Europe it's got to
He's
be good.
talking about Boo Boo Bear, and it's amazing.
Oh,
and
wow. No, never mind. I forgot about
It's a
Yogi's
big
buddy.
boo-boo.
Never mind. You're actually really smart. Jelly, I take it back. You're so smart. I have no
hilarious.
question. All right. We should talk about this, but I really wanted to get into caves first because that's important.
Funny you mentioned it when I recently got back into watching the two dudes who just walk through caves for no reason.
Is it for no reason or is it for a really good reason?
The really good reason is they want to walk through caves.
Okay.
They went in one recently that I actually, at points, like, you know, when you watch someone do something and it freaks you out so bad, you end up holding your breath for moments. I was like, oh, and then I realized like I had been holding my breath for a good 30 seconds. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I got to breathe. But yeah, these dudes freak me out. Go dudes. I don't even know what you're. Oh, I think I kind of know what you're drawing.
You don't know. You don't know what.
I know what fish you swim in.
You ain't familiar with my fish.
I know what fish you swim in.
Happens to you every time you watch someone climbing, dude. GoPro videos of people doing extreme sports sucks, especially because like you're not supposed to post videos of people dying. So I got real concerned that I just watched someone die whenever I'm watching first person GoPro, someone doing extreme sports, and then it cuts to black before they can land.
Okay, did you see that though? He watched somebody go into the Chernobyl exclusion zone and drink standing water.
Okay, Chernobyl exclusion zone you can go into now, and it's mostly okay. Drinking standing water literally anywhere is a bad like that's a terrible plan. That's just a mistake.
Everywhere, let alone Chernobyl.
Yeah, like wow, what a bad idea.
He is drawing the cave as an eye, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Maybe we don't know what's happening. You guys can think you're predicting whatever you want to think you're predicting, but you know.
You know what? Don't make me put my finger up your nose. Let's get
Rafts,
into it.
luckily we haven't started yet, so everything's fine.
Don't worry about it. We have been 100% talking about
cave pilled. We're actually feeling kind of cave pilled, and we haven't needed anything else.
We just talk about one other thing. If we make a army, you and I, and we are commanding like a great army, let's really think about naming it not something stupid.
I wanted to talk about this because let's this is us starting Berserk. Welcome everybody to us talking about Berserk. That's what's happening now. That's where we are. That's what we're in for. Welcome YouTube. We weren't talking about caves for the last 10 minutes. Don't worry, YouTube.
You're shit about caves. Worry about that.
I love naming all of our military orders such dumb things because that is absolutely how mercenary and knightly orders were named in the like late medieval period. This seems to be based off of. There were so many like dumb fucking names. I'm gonna look this up right now. I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna go Google.
I love your name.
I'm gonna go Google late medieval mercenary company names. Okay. We're gonna find some.
Holy Purple Rhino Knights was
it's so funny.
Jesus.
Okay,
God.
we got to move to the right era to find late medieval. Oh, this is just famous. Oh, this is giving me the names of mercenaries, not of companies. Ugh. Ugh, that sucks. Wikipedia has failed me. It's giving me famous mercenaries, not like okay, free company. Okay. Let's see if I can find one because I've seen some of these names in history books before and they're terrible. Okay, so the French ones aren't as bad, but I did find Company of the Hat.
Okay, but we have the Green Berets. How different is that? They could have called themselves, like Stapel Vert.
Man, these are types of mercenaries, not companies. Guys, I've seen some dumb names and I can't find them. People haven't listed the dumbest names. The Blue Whale
is the
Ultra
dumbest
Heavy
name.
Armored Fierce Assault Annihilation Night Corps is so good.
It's just so bad. Bad.
Oh man, guys. I need
What are
to
you
find
trying to look
silly
for?
company name. I'm trying to find something that I've seen before, but like I've seen a list before of like dumb mercenary company names, but people are only listing the cool ones is the issue.
You know what? I'm in love with the elite Canadian military force, J2F2 or JTF2, which is just an acronym for the Joint Task Force 2. I'm in love with looking up information on them right now, which is really screwing with my algorithm, as you could imagine. Now my algorithm doesn't know whether to show
All
me
right, I've given up. I can't find the list.
beating and journaling or like how to survive and military things, and it keeps trying to send me things about guns, and I'm like, no, wrong lady. You're doing badly.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue. And it's a real issue. Is that I actually have a real problem, which is I think guns are cool, but the type of people who make gun content are the type of like I think guns are cool conceptually, but they are obviously built to kill people and bad societally. I fully get this, but guns are cool and I sometimes want to watch them do stuff. But the people who make gun content for the internet are not the kind of people who just conceptually think it's cool to watch things explode. They are people who politically are aligned with the idea of gun, which makes sense because their YouTube channel does depend on the broad deregulation of gun.
I have some things for you. Like, okay, as your co-host and your mother.
Okay, everyone is agreeing with me right now. Yeah.
But I have
FPS
some
Russia was
things for
great. I
you.
miss things like that. I miss apolitical gun content. The slow-mo
Anyway,
guys are great with guns.
as
Yeah,
I was
okay.
talking about Drawk, I have some new things for you because I've been playing around with this. Because first of all, I love historical content. I deeply studied World War I and World War II in university, so I continue to watch things about them, which screws with my algorithm. And then I love looking up new military weaponry and technology, which again messes with my algorithm. So
Dude,
I finally found some that are actually playing within the bounds and are looking at like the historical changes of weaponry over time and what we're at now. And I'll give you some. They're phenomenal.
I'm excited.
Okay.
We're gonna have a tough time getting started because I want to tell you something real quick. This is a detour-heavy episode.
Okay.
You've been talking about how you like learning about new military technology, which I agree is so fucking awesome. And I actually think a lot of military technology actually says good things about society. Like I get that we don't like drone warfare, but there's actually, I think genuinely it's a good sign of where soft power is heading that most presidents of the United States have leaned away from things like mines and bombardment and towards drone strikes. Because when you think about number of people killed per dollar spent, you're actually spending a lot more money per person killed in the age of drone warfare if it's done the way that most presidents have used drones. And recently, the US started using the Hellfire missile, which is a missile that literally has swords pop out of it and is designed to jettison extra jet fuel so that it runs out of payload or fuel before it hits the target, so that it's literally just colliding with people with swords. If you compare the average number of extra casualties using that is 0.3, usually it just hits the person it wants to kill, whereas mines have an insanely high civilian death ratio. Same with bombardment. So I actually think it says
legs off years later.
Yeah, so exactly. So I actually think that the fact that we're moving to an era where the world's most powerful military is designing a missile with swords on it for extra precision says something good. Now, is that what we should be aiming for? No, we should be better than a society that has sword missiles. However, I think sword missiles is a big step in the right direction. Yeah. I'm not hype about the war crimes. I am saying I think it's a. Don't think of us as the end of history. Don't think of this as the final
You're not
moment.
late at all, Yeti. Cool. You aren't.
We haven't done anything. We've literally done nothing. Now, the other thing, if you like modern military technology, I found out something hilarious. You know how stealth bombers and fighter jets nowadays have enough military power to destabilize a small nation on their own? So at some point, Lockheed and Martin, I'm pretty sure, showed up to the U.S. military and was like, "Hey, we have a pitch for you." And they were like, "Cool, we love your pitches. We build basically everything you say. We fund basically everything you say you can build." They were like, "Cool, we have a new pitch. Imagine an aircraft carrier, but it's flying." And it has vertical takeoff because no runway in the world is big enough. And it runs on a nuclear engine so it can stay airborne for 45 days. And imagine where the missiles would go on a fighter jet. Each of those missiles is instead a fighter jet. And it has 13 fighter jets on each wing. And the US government went, "No, what the fuck? Why would we? No, no. Are you crazy? Why would we build this?"
I'm sorry. I'm in love with that. And if my good friend from World War II, Winston Churchill, was alive, he'd be all over that. Okay, I'm going to
Now we
move
can get
into
started.
our story. I got a new chair. I don't want to brag, but I'm now sitting in an excellent gamer's chair because I'm a
Dude, you
gamer
have a
now.
gamer chair? That's crazy. She gaming.
It's not like a regular shitty gamer's chair. It's like a cute gamer's chair, but it's also not cute. It's just comfortable. And
Is
it
it
doesn't
pink and
make
white?
sounds anymore. So I am ready to talk about shit.
Is it pink and white?
No, and I'm pissed about it. It's black and turquoise.
All right. I mean, are you not aware that as a gamer girl, you're obliged to own pink and white stuff?
First of all, I won't be told what to fucking do.
Well,
Second
I'm
of
sorry, but
all,
every cool Twitch streaming gamer girl has pink and white.
I'm here for them. When you're in a world where people talk to you the way they do, I would play up everything. I would have nothing but flowers, fucking smiles, pink, and flowers. I'd be so pissed off all the time. Good for them. They should rock it out. I'm pissy because mine isn't. It's blue and it's fine. It's fine. It looks cool. It has a stupid bomb on it. It's whatever.
People are hoping you at least have the cat ear headphones.
Do you guys want to know what I have on my head? And I'm not even lying. You guys don't even want to know, but I'm going to tell you right now what I have on my head. I have snail antenna on my head because my friend got me a pink headband.
Right. I forgot that.
My friend got me a pink headband to wear while I was washing my face that has snail antenna on it and is fluffy and fuzzy. And I wear it to do the stream so my hair stays out of my face because how am I supposed to think if hair is in my face? So every time I come on here, I'm basically just a communication snail. You've heard me.
You are the transponder snail.
I am a transponder snail.
Woman out here kind of snail pilled.
Okay, here we go.
Let's go. Let's do it. All right, we're back. We're back. I'm going to curl up in my chair, be ready.
Do you remember when we talked earlier about how this author is the master of small facial movements and small expressions?
Yeah, I do, in fact.
That Kantaro is like, hey, why don't I just do the tiniest things? The conversation that happened between the devil, and I love how when we start the chapter off, the hall gabbers, or like some of the only women in this, and they're hall gabbers, are like, don't worry, Midlands has its own guardian angel, you know. Speak of the devil. I love the idea that they call him a guardian angel on one hand and then immediately say, speak of the devil. Like that little transition is pure delight. So
that is good.
When he comes out and he starts talking to, what is it, Minister Foss? Yeah. And they're having their whole very, very strange little conversation together. I could not have loved the moment more. I'm in the big book. Remember, people, I'm in the big black book.
She's in the big book. She's actually in the big black book.
The big black book. That is awesomeness. On page 617 of the big black book, there's
blue bear and the big blue bear blood, black blood.
I'll kill you dead. He has one tiny, tiny little bead of sweat on his face. And he goes, There could be no mistake an assassination of Julius and his son was Griffith's retaliation. Somehow he must have gotten wind that the incident at the autumn hunt was in the hands of... And then he said, could he even know of me? And then there's just this tiny, tiny little bead of sweat on his face. And I was like, that is such a showing of what we were talking about before, where this author doesn't feel like he needs to overdo things. You actually have to pay attention to the art in a very different way. And then later down the page, when he's flinching and he says, the only good hero is a dead hero. And then he goes and flinches because he sees Griffith up at the hallway at the end under the arch. That same bead of sweat is still there. And I just was like, bravo, sir. I love the attention to detail that you have in there and that you carry that little piece forward with you as we move in. It isn't like he wiped it away and it says so much with so little. That was... And then, because he said to himself, how can I make this the creepiest moment ever? Page 618 is just Griffith under the arch, staring back at him, standing full upright, just his eyeball, and one little picture of poor bullshit Minister Foss in the middle. I was like, that's awesomeness.
It's fantastic. I love how much this author clearly has done so many exercises with facial expressions. I still find it shocking that it's not talked about more, how much the subtlety of the expressions. And maybe that's because the original anime is how a lot of people found it. And I can't imagine the anime quite captures how important the subtlety of facial expression is to this story in this format, in this medium.
Because if it was an animation, it would have movement from one facial expression to another, which I think would kind of get rid of some of that minute detail. Like, and so I think that you wouldn't realize like that one tiny bead of sweat could have so much power.
I can't imagine having like the amount of work you have to do to get this good at facial expression in particular.
I'm never going to forgive the anime, impeccable. Though. Like finding out that the anime didn't have that whole beginning part and including didn't have Puck, which is just what?
Yeah. I've actually been reflecting on this a lot. I've been reflecting a lot on the experience of the anime versus the manga. And I think the anime wants to be a far more traditional story when I think about the changes they made. Now, I haven't seen any of the anime adaptations, which there are 3 of. But when people describe not having Puck and they describe not having a lot of the beginning, if any at all, not having the SA on our boy Guts, when I think about a lot of that, I think of it being a more traditional story, especially most visibly in what we talk the most about, which is not giving you the evidence to on your own piece together that Griffith must have a darkness within him beyond reproach. That we know he is capable of something that he didn't have to do, that he has done something horrific, that he will do something horrific. All of the interactions with Griffith in this format, instead of being, oh, we don't know what's happening and there's suspense, it's dread. It's the dread of how dark will he go? How much of what we see is the true him? How much of what he does is for a greater good or just pragmatism? Like there's so much more dread in this reading. And when he eventually does what he does, we won't feel betrayed in the same way as a more typical story would want, but that doesn't feel necessary. That's not what we're meant to be feeling. That's not where the impetus of the emotion is coming from in this. I think this is very unique in its storytelling in a way that it sounds like the anime was less so, where it more wants, this is our cool badass guy on his badass journey where he's met with betrayal and the like.
Yeah. And I think that I can't imagine reading this as not... Did you see somebody in the not reading this and instead watching the anime and having the same experience? Somebody in YouTube said that they were so disappointed in me for being like so Shonen Jump.
Shonen build, yeah.
Build, and I laughed my ass off. I'm like, dude, I've read 2 Shonen Jump mangas. Like,
true.
Dude, calm this shit on. I am not shonen built. I'm narrative built. So they were talking about the idea of how
I think
Guts is human,
oh, man,
and
this
everyone
not
is
good.
too much telling us that Guts is human. So like I agree, he's probably human since everyone is like freakishly freaking about it. But on the other hand, it also could be that, you know, it's never finished given that the author dies. But I was laughing my ass off because I was like, excuse me? I've read 2, but if you look at the history of the world, so in my response to them, I said, because they were like, did you forget that he was born from a human woman hanging from a tree? And I was
No,
like,
we
I
know.
forget. I was like, who was that person again who gave birth to Jesus?
Yeah,
Like,
was that a lady, or was that like
was it a
was it an
lady?
angel? Was it a
I
magical?
think it was a woman. Like, that's just a narrative that we do all the time. A
Yeah,
woman who was
I
impregnated by gods. Like, excuse me, Zeus?
I mean, if we're gonna get right to it, I want to think. I've been thinking about it. I stand by that it can't mean nothing that Guts and Griffith have pointy ears when very, very few people do, and the people who do are all very important, and capable of things that are exceptional. Like, it feels, if you are just being narrative minded, it is too strange for that design characteristic to exist on 2 characters who are the only 2 people who pushed a guy to his limits or made him gave him a challenge all after 300 years of searching. It
And it could
just
be
doesn't
something
line up
human,
right.
but there's got to be
But
something to it.
what I'm starting to consider is that something about the pointed ears are not like some hereditary special aspect, but some sort of marker of a fate that has been touched by God, something
Interesting.
that God has paid special interest to, that like you them having these pointy ears, much like demons who have embraced God's favor and power, that it is just a
I
sign
love
of
that
being
Girly
gazed
Griffith.
upon by God in this world.
Brother
Not
Onion
the
and
will
Girly
of thee.
Griffith both can say it. But here's what I was going to say. The reason I got into that is not to attack a human being who said that, but it's interesting because I was like, oh my god, thank you for thinking that I'm so manga rich that I'm like Shonen Jump touched. But the other thing I was going to say is with an author who puts so much detail into the slightest movement of face and has one tiny little bead of sweat means something, having something as significant as ears in that identical shape on the 2 of them has to mean something. If it was a different author and artist doing this who didn't spend so much time meticulously honing tiny looks and facial movements and the different looks of people, I would say, yeah, it could be just a coincidence and it's just a way that they have done this before. But come the shit on. This is a man who puts a single bead of sweat on somebody and all of us are like, oh my god, this guy is quaking in his boots, like you've complete, or just has 2 people look at each other and there's just one eyebrow that is slightly moved in one of the most tiny little minutiaes and we're like, oh, like they are
Yeah,
too into the particular for this
there's
not
way
to
too
have
much detail.
something.
I
Exactly. So that's why I was
it's
talking about it.
someone is saying that they've never seen someone go so in on it and notice it before, but I think that's why this series is supposed to be interesting, right? Is that we are people who are bringing a new perspective on it and noticing something that nobody else has seen. Yeah, Puck also has pointy ears, but he's
One
literally a
of the
magical elf.
reasons that we were talking about the magical means of that.
He's literally a magical elf. So like that doesn't mean much. And someone who's saying God is a half-excised bit of lore. When I'm saying God, I mean whatever divinity is in this world. I mean to
Yeah.
have I don't know anything about the mythology of the series beyond what's been shown yet in the manga. We
I
haven't done
also
research
think
about it.
that
We don't know anything. I just think the more I think about it, and I know obviously with how people are acting, it hasn't been revealed yet. And maybe people will say it was a retcon by the guy who took over, but I don't think so. I think we are going to find some sort of hint, whether it's said outright or not, that the pointy ears means something. Now, I agree thematically it would be a bit weaker if they had special powers or something,
I would
but
agree.
for it to be the people who like have been looked at by divinity to me makes sense. Like a sign of people who have been pushed along a path of particular fate,
Yeah.
because we see it in people who are the cruxes of this. We see it in
Yeah.
Gambino, who is the reason that Guts ends up the way he is. We see it in Griffith, who becomes one of the God Hand. We see it in Guts, who resists the sign of sacrifice, who survives despite having had his soul sold. Um,
Exactly. And Brother Onion
yeah,
just said here that he had to stop in because they had to be stepped in because he was drawing details by the pixel. If you have a person who's drawing details by the pixel and you say that only very, very specific characters having very distinct ears that are shown in very distinct ways. Like we get a lot of Griffith's head turning, we get a lot of his hair hanging in front and behind his ears so it pokes out. We get a lot of moments with Guts in the same way. If you're saying that doesn't mean anything and you have a man who's drawing pixel by pixel, come the shit on. It doesn't have to be something that is saying that they're from a different species, even though the only other thing that we see with those are both the demon and magical creature. But it does mean, like you're saying, that this has to mean something given the perfectionist level of detail this author puts into their things. It's not accidental. So I am happy to have this person be very disappointed in me. I am not Shonen Jump set. I am narratives around the world set.
It's also like very specifically a lot of that thinking of Special Boy Bloodline isn't just Shonen Jump. It's not like that's a lot of Western fantasy too.
That's what I said. I said I would see literally thousands upon thousands of narratives that I've read over my long and brilliant life that have led me to the conclusion that this happens many times in narratives.
Yeah, Nar, I've actually mentioned before that I have a big problem with how bloodlines are treated in manga. Hey, side tangent. Who believes it on today's stream? Unheard of. My Vivan should kick in soon, and I'll be better. But I think a lot of manga struggles with the idea of wanting politically to talk about how there being special people whose bloodline makes them special isn't fair because it puts extra expectation on them and it makes it impossible for other people to have a chance in the world. But while the theme constantly comes up about it not being fair and talking about the consequences of it, it's also treated as a given in most manga that is how it is. Like that is rarely thematically questioned. So I do look forward to, from the sounds of it, Berserk being a series that fundamentally doesn't like the idea of needing to be a special person to accomplish great things, to be significant. Because Naruto, Jujutsu Kaisen, bunch of other stuff I can't remember, talks about all of the downsides and pains caused by believing that only special people can be special. But it never actually challenges that concept in a meaningful way. And it ends up being this very sad belief that comes through of like, it's unfair, but that is how it is.
I like that little Charlotte got a smackdown from the queen. Because honestly, I'm going to say something really ridiculous right now, but it is true. There's a reason that royal people keep themselves aloof and keep themselves away from commoners. There needs to be like a feeling of mystery to be royal. Like you can be common and crazy and depraved behind closed doors.
Yes.
But to even talk to somebody who isn't of your class demystifies you in a way. And so watching her mom come out in one of the single most dramatic outfits ever made in anything.
Her mom's design kicks ass.
God dang, that design. And be absolutely horrified of the moment between them was like, it remystified for us, the readers, because I was starting to feel like, yeah, they're royal, but they're like, small r royal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I fully agree. There's such a difference between series that take royalty seriously and not, because like royalty and nobility are so fucking different. And I find a lot of works treat them kind of interchangeably, that there's upper class and there's commoner, but the separation between royalty and nobility feeling so tangible, it's such a rare thing to do actually well. To me, I will say, the politics of Game of Thrones are so well written, but there is a genuine issue that the series always had for me, that like, because of how Robert Baratheon took the throne, maybe you could never, and this sucks in a series that is, in my opinion, the best political drama, medieval style political
other than
drama.
The last season, don't even
Other than
start.
look, at least for the first few seasons, it is the best medieval political drama for a long time. But because of how the throne was taken, we never got that feeling of what royalty really is, because it was a series about trying to become that. But that separation is so significant that, like,
100%.
mhm,
The queen in this story put a capital on the word royalty for me because
yeah,
Griffith was allowed to interact and to be at a dance and to have private talking time on a terrace with a princess. I was like, small R royalty. And then
I
out walks this queen, and I'm like, oh, damn. And then she chastised Charlotte for these conversations. It's like, you're 16. You need to grow the hell up. This is unacceptable. I was like, oh, that's a large R royalty right there.
real quick, because I've done this before. When hey everybody who's new and you're watching Berserk who didn't watch One Piece, something I like to do something is when sometimes when something reminds me of narrative storytelling in D&D, quick bit of dungeon master advice: keep royals mystified. Now, I recently had royalty interact with my players for the first time in a game, and the way that I kept it up, despite them having to interact with a royal on a very human level, was she talked to them behind closed doors exclusively and dictated to them what would happen. And she spoke plainly and humanly, but was like, here is what people need to believe happened here. This is what I am going to do to avoid needing to make this a court case where we need to extend this. We need this to be pithy, to the point. The nobles need to have a narrative of what happened. You are going to go along with it. What would you like that I can give you under the table in exchange for this? And if it is not acceptable, there will not be a deal. Dictating the terms out, even when you need a royal to lower their guard and be human, have it be in a situation where they can maintain complete control, and where for the broader story, they maintain that mystique of representing a nation itself. Because royalty and nobility are so bloody different. And once you have removed that distinction, you can't get it back.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. You know the scene where they're first leaving the castle and Griffith is leading them and there's people on the side of the road? You see the people who are on the side of the road and one of them is legless. Well, not legless. That's a rude thing to say. One-legged. The man is one-legged and he's holding the hand of a little girl who's clearly like a poor village person or whatever, and they're waiting for
Yeah.
them to go by. I thought that was a tremendous thing to do because if you look at the way the village girl's hair is cut and her size, etc., and she's only shown from the back, but she looks identical to Casca. How we see Casca later on when Casca is a village girl.
I didn't put that together. That's so
And so
good.
if you then look at the page where we have all the people behind Griffith, I was like, is that Casca in line there right behind Griffith in the center? Because if it is, you can kind of see eyes moving over to the side, which I thought was interesting. But I thought it was really cool to start it off with who Casca used to be. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, that feels very intentional and very subtle. And then to move through the story and go into her backstory and find out who she was and have that girl there as a representation of her past when she is in her current form, I think was really brilliant.
I didn't put that together, and that's so good. That's so well thought out.
I'm out of bubbly, which is major bullshit. Should I text your dad and tell him I'm out of bubbly?
You probably should. I should go get a ginger ale soon. I put them in the fridge before streaming. I'm waiting for them to cool down to grab myself a ginger.
Oh, dang, I'm going to be so sad when Canada Dry no longer has its special flavors out for the season. Okay.
Hey, did I tell you the secret I learned about Canada Dry recently?
Is it that it's dry and it's Canada?
I default these days, being the based soda enjoyer that I am, to get ordering a zero product, right? Like getting Coke Zero or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the new sugar-free sweetener they use doesn't have the aftertaste, so it tastes like normal.
Yeah.
However, they ran out of ginger ale zero recently, so I got a diet ginger ale, and I think, right? I think diet ginger ale is better because I realized something. Oh, well, no, for me at least, it's better. If you like strong flavors, it's better because, and it's important, the way that everyone covers up the aftertaste is a little different, right? So the way like Coke Cherry does it is they put way extra cherry flavor in it. But the way they cover up the aspartame aftertaste of diet ginger ale is just with more ginger. So
Oh,
it's
I'm
an
here for that.
incredibly strong ginger flavored ginger ale, and it's actually really good.
I'm here for that. That's a good note.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
I've stopped getting ginger ale zero and started getting a diet ginger ale because it's got that gingery flavor.
So the next thing, I know Cranberry Canada Dry Yeti Cool, like
It's
come the
pretty good.
shit
It's pretty
on.
good.
Oh, it's so good. The next thing that I think is really interesting is that we show two people with something to prove here. Because first we see the casca thing and her old self and then her new self. Just a minute. Human, did you get my text? Can you please get me Canada Dry and bubbly? There, he didn't, but I yelled. Everyone got to hear it. Live and in person, it's Papa Drawk.
It's Saturday.
The next page, we got what I think a friend is one who is my equal. And then we have the two sides of Griffith and Guts side by side, both of them in profile, mind you, both of them in profile, head to back ahead and ears sticking out. Just NBD for no reason at all, looking identically the same, like identically the same. And so I think it's cool because we set this entire thing up with this moment with Casca that we'll find out later on, and this moment with Guts. So we know that both of them are going into this battle kind of like it feels, because we just had the thing with Casca where she was about to talk to Griffith and she was interrupted by Charlotte doing the lodestone bullshit. And then, thank you, Papa Drawk. Your father is having the greatest day ever. He's so happy right now.
Why is he having the greatest day? What's happening?
He is watching football in the garage while cleaning out all of the stuff we've put in there over the years. And we have something called binny, which is where you get a giant bin put into your driveway and they take it away and it goes away. But not only does it go away, they have to pay for garbage by the pound. So they take it back to their warehouse and they go through it and recycle everything and give away everything and get everything to go away. And so he's literally just watching football and loading Binny. It's his goddamn dream.
Damn.
Come look afterwards, but it can't be fixed. It's
You be quiet. I'll kill you dead. I'll kill you dead. Okay, and so then if we started out that way, I think it was amazing because we have Charlotte coming in and being like, "Oh, Griffith." That's her voice.
her voice. Yeah, I do remember that, how she was like, "Oh, Griffith."
It's me, Griffith. Where are you? And then poor Casca is like, "Yo, Griff." And then he's like, "Oh, did Charlotte say something?" But then I understand why Griffith is more into Charlotte when I see the Queen. Like the Queen also shines on Charlotte and makes her royalty more important suddenly because she went and gave away some of her royalty awesomeness.
That fully makes more sense, but for some reason when you first started saying that, I thought you were saying because the Queen's so hot and Griffith can tell, well, yeah, she'll age well. Sure, she's a teen now, but like,
well, I'm in for this. So when yeah, Charlotte is an 18th century orphan boy now. So when he goes back to her, I can kind of almost feel it because I can feel how suddenly Griffith, the Queen, makes Charlotte feel so much more powerfully royal. But anyways, so we have the two things. We have Casca, and we know she's going into the battle with this feeling attached over her, this lesserness. And then we have Guts going in, and we know he's going into the battle with this feeling of lesserness. So they're both going in with something to prove and with all this shit hanging over their head. And I thought that was such a great way to show a battle that has a tone. I guess the word is tone, right? Because you're going to see battle scenes, and the battle scenes are what they are. And I know for a lot of people, they love a battle scene. I love a battle scene in the way that I can pull it out and look at it and really appreciate the difficulty of drawing such chaos so well. But page after page of just battle is really meh for me. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're still fighting. I can see that you're drawing more fighting. And then there's some fighting here too.
I feel like the battle scenes in this section, because of Guts and Casca being so injured later on, really got me. And early on, I think the engagement, you're right, fully is just coming from the fact that we know neither of them are at their best when they're going out.
Exactly. So for me, the beginning battle scenes are just tone, and And I hate the giant whales of doomy
Dude,
gloom.
the
whale.
giant blue whale ultra heavy night core. It's amazing. It's so
I like
bad.
my name. I like my name
Hey, we're at
better.
the second chapter. You're right, Brother Onion. 50 minutes. Look, you guys can't say you didn't like Cave Talk. Did we not like Cave Talk?
On Cave Talk, guys.
Are people
Cave
going to be
Talk.
anti-Cave Talk now? Do we have an anti-Cave fan base?
I think we should just do a show one day where you and I just talk about random things, and it isn't stuff that bugs you; it's random things.
We just
Okay.
pretend. We just pretend that we actually have an agenda, and all we do is talk about like
The fucking giant whale shark, scaly Neptune, heavy armory people. His outfit is pretty killing it. Like it's pretty killing it. I'm not gonna lie.
he's got
But-
a look.
But the fight is just whatever. And then I was not thrilled. Is that the word I'm going to use?
Yes.
I was very not thrilled to have him pop off about women being inferior to men in strength and what use could they be in battle. But I was incensed by her standing there and not fighting at her best. But then when it was like, oh, she's feverish, that makes sense. Okay, she's
Yeah.
sick, so she's not working at her best.
Yeah,
When
that
they
that to me
When
that to
they
me immediately
later
did make it a little bit better.
implied that they imply later on that it was because of her period and that her period gave her a fever, those two things better be fucking separate. I tell you.
Well,
right
here's the thing. I don't think we're ever going to have confirmation that they were separate, but here's what because that'd be weird to discuss. Here's what I will say. We both know that getting a fever when you're having your period is not normal. So what we can say is, by implying just how biology works, we can just tell ourselves those are unrelated. She's having a bad week. She's
hear
on her
me out.
period and also having a fever.
But just hear me out, because also he has her sitting in a cave and she's just sitting there with her shirt on and her legs bent up, and she had her period, but suddenly she doesn't? Because chick is just like, let me tell you my backstory while I free bleed on the rock. And I was like, dude, obviously you don't have what was called a uterus when you wrote this, but do some basic biology shit. The first thing a woman would do when she woke up, if she had her period and found herself naked, is, are my clothes dry? No. Well, whether I like it or not, I'm going to need to put some of these stupid twigs that you covered me in, or ferns. Was it ferns or was it like tree branches or something? Thank you for trying to keep me warm. I'm going to have to put them under me. I'm not just going to free bleed on a rock while I'm sitting here telling you the story of my back life. Like, that is with my legs up. So if you are talking about somebody who is menstruating, you just, for all those people who think this is something you can turn on and off and you can choose, no, that's not how it works. It's just biology.
Jelly Gremlin is pointing out something interesting, which is Japanese people are not allowed to learn anatomy. Were you aware of this?
No, that is ridiculous, because we're talking about a man who puts so much meticulous care into the things he writes and he researches, and Japanese people are allowed to research. No, I can tell where the shirt is. Her ass is hanging out. She's bleeding on the ground.
Look, she's sitting on a fern. Look, we gotta be clear about this. I think I agree with this take exactly, which is I like where it brings us narratively, but the details of how we get there suck. I agree. Casca being sick and unwell and Guts taking care of her is important to me, because we saw in the last section Casca starting to see herself in Guts.
Give her a period. All you needed to do is not have her be on her period, because it implies so many dumb things that men want to imply about women's lack of strength and it coming from getting a period. And I just want to say to all men who don't know this, the closest a woman is to a man is during her period. That's when all of her chemistry, all of her body's alignments, her progesterone, etc., are at the most male-like. So if you think that we're acting irrational, we're just acting like you. Like, literally, it is when we are the most male. And so
for in this piece, we're talking about a person who's been a woman this whole time. They didn't not have a uterus before Guts got there. There's no way that every battle they were in just lined up with them not having a period. So it's not like they haven't had to be in battle with a period. All he had to do is not make her head a period. I felt like that was there for shock value so that Guts could touch the blood and everyone could be like, oh my God. Like even I was like, ew, don't do that, dude. And so it just felt like a shocker moment. There was no need for her to have a period. Just let her have had a fever and been sick. That was enough. It let Guts take care of her, which is something that's really difficult for her. And it's also something that allowed the narrative to move forward where she had to be weak in a way that she hated because she hated being seen as weak for being a woman. You didn't need to add the period, and I will stand behind that 1,000,000%.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Mhm.
I'm not questioning that.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with the people in the chat later in YouTube.
I just watched a thing where a YouTuber I watch on the down low said that he didn't like he stopped thinking about the comments when he's talking as much because he didn't like the defensive tone it was putting on him. And I could see that. I think we both been in that.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that we're talking about periods, and meanwhile, I'm using Heathcliff post-its to do my pages.
Heathcliff?
Deal with that, Heathcliff. I love, you know me. I love to have a weird thing. I ran out of
Hey.
corgis for my post-its, so now I'm using Heathcliff.
Hey, did you know that Heathcliff is one of those things like the Berenstain Bears where it got really Christian after the original creator died because it got taken over by the child of the person who made it, who's super, super Christian?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Berenstain Bears are the same way. They used to not be Christian. They were just like, here's a story about
Oh, I
living a good
remember
life.
Berenstain Bears not being Christian. Anyways, I'm just telling you this as a person with a uterus that it is something that really bothered me. I'm sure it's something that has bothered other women. It might not bother all women, but it really bothered me. There was no need to have her period in here because if he chose to do it and he's this type of person, it really felt like he was calling women out. And he's already not choosing to put women in a lot of the other positions. So I was like, don't do that, dude.
I think, yeah, the Bears got Christian. I think it's interesting because he needs Casca's narrative to be about struggle with gender identity. And I know gender identity isn't how it is looked at because of when this is written, but this is like Casca is a character who struggles with being a woman, who doesn't like that about herself, who has defined herself as someone who chose to be a warrior instead of a woman, treated those things as inseparable. Now, the way we're going, it seems as though we may end up having an arc where the realization is she can be both, because that's where a lot of the dialogue seems to be implying an arc to happen. So I get wanting to make this problem extra woman coded, something that only happens to woman. But the issue does become that it implies the fevers because of the period,
Which is bullshit.
which is not how that works.
It's just biological bullshit.
And if I try to imagine stating it otherwise, it would be really awkward to try to write it as these are unrelated problems. I sure am having a bad day, that I'm having my period, and also a bad fever. Like I understand the impetus that brought someone here, even if I think, the end result is pretty clumsy.
Yeah, it's very clumsy. And aesthetic, my problem is that I don't write about ballsack problems or penis problems unless I've actually done a great deal of research and talked to men. I wouldn't, as a woman writer, walk out and be like, let me tell you what it's like to be hitting the balls, because I know, because that's ridiculous. I don't know.
I mean, look, it's simple. It's bad.
It's bad? Okay. So this felt like an unnecessary addition, and that it implies too much about periods being a thing that holds her back, and she would have had umpteen fights and battles with her period. So how come this period in this moment is the one that we suddenly is taking her out and making it so she just can't focus with her womanly brain anymore? So I'm going to move on.
I do see someone saying that they know some women who like this as a rare attempt to represent a uniquely woman struggle, which I could see if we're being charitable.
And I just think that
no, this is our trociados. Is a new
Yeah,
person.
periods are different person to person. I'm a woman though. We talk about periods with each other.
Casca
if-
just she got a real
If you
bad
don't
one.
think that we don't have open discussions about periods, come on, man. Like I've talked to a gazillion women about periods. And generally, if you have a fever, you are either going through the change, and Casca doesn't look like that's happening, or you're sick. So I just think it would have been better for sick.
I mean, I agree. I think where we go with this
regardless,
is good
the other thing
storytelling.
that he should have said is there does need to be more cowbell. My God, Midnight, you could not be more right about that.
That's
Regardless,
actually really real.
I liked her being sick. I hated the dude on the field having the conversation with her the way he did, but it's expected.
Yeah,
Everyone
look,
talking about raping a woman is expected.
yeah,
That's a
if we're gonna pretend this is a world where mercenaries aren't going to be sexist, R-word and bastards, that's just come on, that's just lie. That's a lie. This is a world where we're gonna be honest about the fact that
that would all
yeah.
happen.
What the medieval mercenary in our grim fantasy is a bad guy? Crazy.
Even understanding that he had to take off her clothes, expected. Like this makes sense. But he has period blood running down her leg in one shot, and then it disappears, and I'm like,
I just wanted to say something about the taking off the clothes that I actually felt like was really good artistically. That it didn't feel like she was ever being framed as like being sexualized, and the sexualization came exclusively again from expression of Guts being almost surprised that this is just there, that her body is just an object in front of him that is the way it is. Like the bluntness of it and Guts's facial expression was the only sexualization in it. And I actually felt like that was a really, really powerful way to do it, especially for someone as sexually nothing as Guts has been in his life, beyond
one of the reasons why I was kind of
experience.
pissy about some of the other things around it is because some of the things in here were done really well. So you know when you get so close to something that you're like, damn, yes. And then something really ugly, like it's like you have that perfect day with your own face and your hair is working and your face is working, but you have that one goddamn whitehead pimple, and if you pop it, it's going to just be goddamn mess in the middle. It felt like that.
I could see that.
I felt like, you pulled me out, and it was so there because she wasn't being framed kind of sexually. Even her mouth wasn't in a sex doll pose.
Which maybe says she's been doing that on purpose in front of Griffith the whole time, which actually makes that funnier.
No, because then, maybe. Those
aren't well, no, because when Lav was editing, Lav pointed out that she doesn't really have sex doll mouth when her and Guts are listening in on Griffith.
Yeah, maybe.
So it might genuinely just be her pursing her lips.
She does have sex doll mouth on page 673 of the Black Book.
What's happening there, dude? I don't know what that's going to be.
She wakes up, she looks at Guts, she does the ... He does a lot of ellipses in this section. He does a lot of...
I like that. It's like there is a lot of silence between them that carries something.
Yeah, but instead of the normal thing where somebody is just looking, he is implying that all the silence has words and that you need to figure out what those words are. And I like that. That was a really good touch. She wakes up and she looks at Guts and she has ellipses besides her and she has sex doll mouth. I think those are supposed to be tree branches because they don't look like any ferns. I know they have too many needles.
Guys, everybody, the people saying it's not because she's sex doll, it's because she's dark skinned. I need to make it clear that he also draws sex doll lips on Griffith sometimes and also draws sex doll lips on the princess sometimes. It's kind of just how he draws pronounced lips. Sometimes it's Casca, sometimes it's Griffith, sometimes it's Charlotte.
Yeah,
people be sex dolling it up here.
It's not just because she's dark skinned either, because her mouth is too pursed for that. She would have fuller lips. I like how she treats her nakedness too when she is clearly like just walking around and fighting. But her like not being able to move around or hike up a hill when she normally hikes up a hill fully laden with battle armor and her weaponry, etc., made me be like, okay, this is not period, because she's had to fight in how many goddamn battles before with her period, no doubt. So I mean, someone did point out now is sickness.
Someone did point out something interesting, right? And think about this. You can actually take a bit more from this. Now, I want to make it clear, this is all headcanon, and there's no way Miura, with how he wrote this, our good boy Kenny, knew this at all. But if you read into it, women who are extremely athletic because of low body fat percentage oftentimes don't get their period very often. But a time they can get their period is when they get sick because it throws their hormones kind of off whack. And that change brings their period back. So, in theory, she might not actually be used to having her period at all because she's extremely athletic. And the fact that she got sick brought her period on, which would make them correlated. Is that how it was written on purpose? No. But
No.
by knowing more about biology than the author, we can
Yeah.
headcanon it.
If we want to, we can make it that, and I'm cool with it. But nah. Her backstory was exactly what you thought it would be, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, if you were to ask me to guess what her backstory is,
I would have written this.
It's like,
Including when she was sent off, including when the dude went to rape her, and including how she was in the midst of that when Griffith showed up. Like, all of it.
what's kind of interesting about it is there's weirdly enough some correlation between Griffith for her and Gambino for Guts.
I would agree. I would really agree.
Which I find very interesting to think about.
Is just attractiveness.
Well, and Griffith tries to be nicer than Gambino.
I mean, for a while.
Well, he tries to at least appear nicer.
Here's something we haven't talked about. We don't know what happens to Casca. Does she end up losing her life to Griffith's ambition?
I can't. Well, we know that what's his face sacrificed 2 things, and we don't see her around. So
yeah. So
or had to sacrifice 2 things. He only sacrificed 1, but the Baron was made to sacrifice 2 to become a full demon. Anyways, what I was going to add on, I'm not liking this, but it's hard from the zoomed out, so I'm gonna have to change my approach. What I was going to say,
you were doing them inside of Griffith's eye, then?
Well, I'm not doing anything. What I was gonna say is, I cannot guess about Casca because while I don't know, I have had cultural osmosis to be aware of some of it. And I don't know for sure, but I have enough information that I don't feel like it would be fair for me to guess.
I think that he had to give. I think he gave her up. She was one of the casualties of him becoming a devil person.
It's kind of interesting that all 3 of them, in a way, are victims of SA to varying degrees and for varying reasons.
Kind of. I mean, Griffith chose to
Griffith did
sexual relationship, but also it is still a type of sexual assault. We also don't know what happened in his childhood.
Well, because what I was going to say is, first of all, he's too young to in our world be seen as consenting, and then the other thing is, it is the type of SA that is given by a system where, in theory, like, let's say in theory someone is married off when they're 14, they're in a system where they have been given consent, but that was their only choice. Let's say someone is in a situation where their choice is sex work or starve. Yes, in theory, they were given a choice. Or comparison to Hollywood, exactly, where your career can only advance, your ambitions can only advance if you do this thing that you otherwise don't want to do.
Kind of it is more, though, because Griffith also, like, I don't want to be out here being a Griffith apologist and have to end up being.
I'll call you a cult member if you do. So yeah.
Yeah, but then we will put him at number 1 in our chart. Not to be a Griffith apologist, but it's kind of even more because he has built this on the back of his own dreams. So he has all these people who's in an army that he has to feed because an army only moves with its stomach. So your stomach is your number 1 thing. Then your weaponry and your repairs, et cetera, et cetera. So all these people are there dying for his dream. He just watched this little boy die who had nothing but sparkles in his eyes for him. And he knows that all these people are only there because he has put together this thing for them to be there. And he has to feed all of them and he has to care for all of them and their human needs. And so he knows, like, not only is the world built so that I have a thing that I can give to this pervert who I know is also taking advantage of these young boys. I am young enough and I look the way he wants enough that I can actually use my body to feed others. So it is even worse because he feels a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And dare I say, I hate using this word with him. It makes me feel ill. Honor.
Yeah.
To feed, clothe, and care for all these people. So I have to literally sell my ass.
I have this thought that part of the Griffith apology is going to come from the idea that of what we see here, which is that Griffith was willing to sell himself out to respect those who've given their lives for his ambition.
Yeah.
So there is this feeling that he would be disrespecting all of the other people he sacrificed to achieve his ambition if he wasn't willing to give the ones who he cared the most about. That it
I
would be a
agree.
disrespect to every man who died for him for what he wanted to not also be willing to give Guts and Casca. I think that is going to be the justification. But I do still think that the prologue was meant to show us how you are still meant to have a choice. And what I've been dwelling on more and more so is the prologue tells us that you can make a choice, but the choice might be that you have to die.
Well,
And
yeah.
that is honorable, dying to not kill those around you.
Yeah.
But then we do have to contrast that with Guts himself, who was sacrificed, who should die. And by choosing to continue to go onwards, has this curse following him, causing demons to devour the lives of the innocent around him. Guts is the hero of the story, ostensibly, living the opposite way, where we are meant to also believe that there's honor in struggling onwards, continuing to fight and try to live and survive, despite the fact that doing so is killing people around you. And I think, isn't that contrast really interesting to think about, whether this series is glorifying the villain choosing to die instead of become what Griffith did, a lesser villain, or is it choosing to glorify the hero who struggles onwards and chooses to live even though it means sacrificing innocents around him?
That's a really great question. And he talks about that struggle right here where he says, but for hundreds of thousands of lives to hang in the balance and myself alone not to be unclean, what I want won't enter my grasp as easily as that. So there's an understanding of, in order for me to get the thing I want, I will allow others to become unclean. I will use them. He says my dream can only be realized by building upon their corpses. So he understands that he's standing on the shoulders of the dead, but he is also saying, I won't be left untainted while I stand on the shoulders of dead. I will also make sure that I am suffering and unclean at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really talks to that idea of, like, it already shows what kind of a like, it's a heroic kind of, God. It's so hard when you know who he is.
It feels like the story is weirdly not very similar to the noble you were reading lines for earlier, anti-hero. Like the story, not anti-hero, but anti-hero. The story is against the idea of heroes, that the sense of heroism Griffith has is what justifies the worst of him, because his sense of honor and obligation to his purpose, the purpose is what basically any literary scholar agrees is what makes a hero. The sense of motivation is what pushes them as a protagonist. And his sense of purpose and his need to accomplish is what causes suffering. And it's kind of the same for Guts, honestly, where his need to live on only to probably avenge Casca and himself is killing people around him.
Yeah.
The story is kind of anti the concept of heroism, or at least calling to question our worship of it, calling to question our idea that to pursue your dream as protagonist is worthwhile. Because I still stand by that Griffith is still kind of the protagonist in this section, even though he's barely on screen in this moment.
Yeah, he is. And I think it's really interesting, his choice to make, like, it's a story about Guts mostly, and yet I would say that Casca and Griffith have had just as much airtime and just as much backstory fed into them.
Yeah, if you don't count the prologue, all of this section
Yeah.
all of this section, Casca and Griffith feel just as like important.
Yeah.
This trio,
It feels as if this is a story about 3 people rather than a story about a single person.
so I've mentioned before how there's lots of scenes that there are things that are similar to other media in setup, but that I haven't seen anything like this, like with the maids talking about how great Griffith is being framed as dumb. But like we're seeing that again in this, right? We're seeing like this trio. I can't think of anything like them in other media. They are so unique because instead of it being they are filling the roles of the 3 friends at all, they are just 3 people. Like I've seen it described as a love triangle, and we see the beginning of affection starting with Guts and Casca, of them coming to see themselves in each other. But even that, like, it doesn't feel at all like other love triangles, right? Like there's something so just human about it. It doesn't feel like, oh yeah, these are the characters who are in a love triangle. It feels like, oh yeah, these are 3 people, and these are the natural ways their feelings for each other and about themselves would progress. Like it's just
It
so organic and human.
It's funny because it is very human and doesn't feel forced. The closest I have felt to it, like I said this in my head a couple of times, which is funny to me, is
Mm.
I was like, okay, Hans, Luke, and Leia. Like
Mm.
it feels the closest that I felt about it is kind of that Star Wars trilogy triangle of 3 people at sometimes. And yet it's not that, but do you know what I mean? The
Mm.
way that you're moving 3 stories of 3 powerful people forward
I get
and
it.
and you are giving them deep airtime, backstory, and importance. They're all important. Like I would say that Han Solo to me was more important than Luke Skywalker. Princess
I mean,
Leia to
Han
me was
Solo was more
everything.
than anything meant to be a vehicle for the viewer to put themselves in rather than a standalone character.
Eg- yes, and I would say that at the same time, Han Solo feels very guts coded.
In a way,
Yeah.
the closest I felt, not based off of filling the same roles, but just in feeling like people, uh, is Denji, Power, and Aki, and that's very different. And you haven't chainsawed yet, so we can't go into that.
This is interesting. Apparently, Mira was a big Star Wars fan.
I mean, it makes sense.
So when I was reading this, for me, she felt like a very Princess Leia grit. It just felt to me that this was grit level Star Wars kind of movement. And I hadn't been used to it was as if you took all the shininess off and you said, what does it actually look
Which
like
is
with
funny because
three
Star Wars had the claim to fame originally already of
of
being
being
sci-fi
great?
with the shine taken off.
With the shine taken off, exactly. And so it really felt like this was that next level where he was like, okay, but let's actually look like what it would feel like if we took all that off and if the people were even more human. And I was like, more human? That's weird. Um,
Look,
and yet it does.
look, I'm talking exclusively about the relationship dynamics of just feeling like 3 people forced into a situation. With Chainsaw Man, I am aware that Makima is the Griffith. I don't get me wrong, people. Makima is the Griffith. Look. With Denji, Power, and Aki, I'm only talking about like the vibes of relationships in interacting and the right more the writing
Oh
style, not
my
making
God.
symbolism with the characters.
One of the arcs is called the Millennial Falcon. See, I think there needs to be
That's
more
funny.
said about my idea in the way that he would have been more my age and
I
he would have
mean,
gone
yeah,
through it as
maybe.
one of me. And so the reason I think this is fair is because for me, Griffith feels like what Luke Skywalker would have been if he had gone to the dark side.
Evil Luke.
And so I feel like we're looking at kind of a Luke Skywalker character who chooses the dark side.
All right. All right. Should we so we're in the cave. We've gotten that far, right? Where are we going next?
Men knock on my door. No, we're out of there now. Or we're about to get out of the cave. I don't care if you get yourself killed in some battle, but the band of the Hawk won't let you take Griffith's dream down with you. They were close to having sex here. I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah, they absolutely were. If people weren't hunting them, they might have fucked for sure.
Yeah. This was a very close thing. And then when
And then everyone below 27 would hate it for being an unnecessary sex scene.
they would have been like, "That's ridiculous," and then they just needed to heat up. They were cold. And then I don't know. How'd you feel about Guts fighting off so many people?
I'm so mixed on it because, okay, so I want to say for starters, I'm always tempted. I'm always tempted to go towards feminist thinking of, oh, shouldn't women be strong and not need to be saved? And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this was not Casca being weak at all while having a fever and injured and without any armor. She killed like 8 or 9 trained soldiers. Like, Casca comes across very impressive. Guts not needing to be saved here is something I don't know how I feel, because it feels so early in like we don't have Guts being who he is when we meet him in the prologue yet, right? And killing that many dudes feels so crazy. But also, it is Guts, and the story is partially about how exceptional Guts is. That is a lot of what this is. But like, it's just so much, right?
Yeah, I was like, ugh, I would like to have seen her stay there for a bit longer.
Yeah.
I know that they wanted her to leave early because, then she wouldn't get to run far enough to rescue him or get away, and she needed to not wear herself out. But also, if she runs earlier, there's too many people who can chase her. So that's, 50-50. And then the other reason is she has been a trained warrior for all of these years. So her fighting back to back with him might be her best chance of survival, given how strong she actually is.
Yep.
But then if she has a fever and she's sick, I still think she would have fought her ass through it. I mean, he fought his ass through it with an injury. So it was basically saying, he's whatever, and he is amazing. And I felt like it was trying to be a foil, but it didn't feel like foil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think more than anything, it was that he felt he had to protect her and was like fighting ineffectually, but it kind of accidentally comes across as him throwing her to the wolves because like put her in a dire situation. It's so difficult to say whether or not I love the way it was done, but like,
Yeah, I had the same thing. I was like,
but
I
it's
either
not
love
like,
this or don't like this,
but
and I
it's
can't
not like
decide.
she doesn't come across well. She does fucking incredibly. Like, she kills so many fucking dudes
Once
while
again,
at her
she's
worst.
there with another man between her legs trying to R-word her, um, and then she decides to grab a stick and put it through his eye, which is, she's like, oh, I feel so powerless, and I'm like, you still have things you can fight with, and you're
Well,
a soldier,
but
so I
but
don't
that's
like you saying that.
that's why I loved that she didn't end up. She did fight back, even though she was saved. Like,
I
she
know,
was
but in
ready
her
to fight
head,
to the
she
death.
shouldn't have said she felt so powerless. She is the leader of 1,000 men. She has a division of 1,000 men. And I can't imagine a person who was trained in that way would then lay on the ground and be like, I feel so powerless. I think instead they would be like, okay, is there a stick? Is there a rock? What do I have? My fingers. I can stick them straight in his
Well,
eyes.
so
Or once I have a single breath of movement, I will do this. They would be planning and plotting the whole time, not needing to remember Griffith. They lead 1,000 men. They've been
so
in many battles.
a lot of this, a lot of how Guts acts here and how Casca acts here, and why I think I actually do like this section the more I think on it, I think is meant to tie back to the fact that both of them have been emotionally injured by listening in to Griffith.
I would
By
agree with that. I would have liked to have seen that more.
But
You
I
know,
think that's meant to be this whole implication where if you look at their expressions through this whole thing, starting off with the battle itself, it feels like they are both just reeling from having listened into that conversation. And it's why at first Casca started to relate to and care about Guts, but now it's partially why Guts has started to relate to Casca. And I think we see that in such a bad way where Griffith, like for Guts, where Griffith was the one who was saying, no, I understand that you do care, that you are doing your best, that you are protecting people. And by seeing Griffith, who in that moment Guts saw as a friend, now say that they can't be friends to Charlotte. We now see Guts embracing instead what Casca said about him. And when she comes back to save him and she's mad for putting himself in that situation, he's like, whatever, I didn't care. I don't think about things. I just want to swing my sword. Like, it's really sad, but like, it's again the precision of the dialogue of bringing back these exact lines to highlight that now he's resorting back to how he sees him, how Casca sees him, instead of how he felt like Griffith saw him.
Yeah. For me, it was too helpless. And I know people are going to be like,
Mhm.
she's been sexually assaulted before and she's been through this and this. And yeah, no, I can speak on behalf. He should have had more presence of mind. And you are also talking about a military person who's been in many battles. I
But-
think that saying that she loses steam is one thing. So if they wanted her to feel like it was because she'd been broken because of what occurred with Griffith, I agree. I think I have to put too much of my own work in as a reader for that. I wanted that to be a little more out there. I wanted that to be a little more like her feeling broken by Griffith's betrayal and
That's
lack
fair.
of interest.
I still feel as though you can't make this a situation where she isn't struggling, because if this arc,
She
these
can
two
struggle,
arcs,
but
Yeah.
I just feel like she wouldn't struggle in the way that they're making it like, oh no, I'm being raped again. I think we're talking about a person who leads 1,000 men, who's in an army and in multiple battles.
Yep.
She could have been raped and held down, but she would have been like grabbing at every twig, sticking her fingers in his eyes. Like, I think it's fine to say that this is not a normal reaction, and because that's a completely not normal reaction, I would have liked to have had instead of her having a what would Jesus do moment with Griffith, I would have preferred it if she was like remembering her other assaults in her life and the strength that she had and fighting off, or remembering the moment that Griffith ignored her and still finding her own way to fight. That would have been more character developing to me. Instead, it just felt like a moment for other people to find her.
Can I also say, I want to come back to something else, because I want to talk about Guts' situation here, and I think in thinking about all this, I've coming around to Guts' situation more and more in liking that scene. And my reasoning there is, the more I think about it,
The Guts fighting off 100 men scene.
yeah, the more I think about it, the more I feel like Guts' whole arc so far has been like struggling with the fact that he doesn't get to be more of a person. And I think there's something kind of brutal about, first of all, him saying, go back to your sword master, calling her a weapon, but also embracing the idea that all there was violence. I just let myself do nothing but fight. There was no thinking, because like, that's the situation where his trauma has partially come from. That's why he killed Gambino, was that all he has is his sword. All he can think about is fighting. That's what he's built for. And when he was briefly talking about his emotions with Casca, about his life he went through, he talks about that explicitly, how all he was taught was how to fight.
Yeah, his doesn't bother me. The more I spend time with his, it doesn't bother me at all. First of all, he's a hero who's trying not to be a hero. He's a person who does things like, I'm not trying to save you, this just works out better for me, and you're getting in the way. Whereas we know he's trying to save her. So he's a hero who's trying not to be a hero.
On that note, something I want to talk about before we continue is, in the tiny expressions, I genuinely love the moment where he says a bunch of sexist shit to Casca because it's the only way he knows she'll actually leave, is by getting her mad.
Yeah, I do
and,
too.
And then his little smile, like his at peace smile when she runs away, like, good, I did it.
Yeah, exactly. It did feel a little Lassie go home, or to me,
Yeah, but you've met Casca, she's stubborn as fuck.
You're a bad dog. But yeah, I got it. It was good. And as a person who grew up with Lassie go home, I was all right with it. The more I liked it, though, was more just because when you're trying to be a person who doesn't want to be a hero, and you're just like, well, I'm just going to stand here then. And two things came to me. Number one, when I was just looking at it again, is yeah, you're right. He only knows fighting, and he talked to Griffith about it. The only thing I do is fight. The only thing I know is fighting. Every time I come into a situation, I fight my way out. But then the second thing is it kind of feels like almost like he's trying to keep the promise to Casca. That Casca's like, don't die, and then runs off so she can get more people to come back and help to save him because it's an impossible situation. And so it did almost feel like a promise fulfillment where he was like, well, I'm going to try not to die because it would mean a lot to Casca, even though I'm not going to say it and think it, if she came back with help and I wasn't dead. And then there's that third element of stubbornness giving you the power to just continue to fight and to continue to push forward. And before you know it, you have made it through the hell. And so there was something kind of good about that. But if I'm going to be honest, this part, I will need to read it again. There was parts of it that sat sour with me, and they sit sour because I am a woman. And I think that it's the same thing when you are, only being a woman is over half of the planet, but when you are from a different, if you are a person of color or you are a person of visible minority, there are some things that are going to sit bad for you because they do. And it's not meant to show up for everyone, and they wouldn't even understand, and it would be hard to articulate why it would piss you off so much because you don't live that life. For me, there's some parts of this that sat too heavy. And I'm not going to get into all of that because that's not what this is about. The parts that didn't sit heavy with me, and the relationship building that occurred, and the moment of vulnerability between these two characters, I think was very important. I would have done it differently. I recently listened to an interview with a director who talked about how he didn't see how something should have happened until he talked to one of his actors, and she explained this would never happen. A woman would never do this. This is ridiculous. And he said, oh yeah, how would you rewrite it? And she said, I'll show you. And then that got an Oscar nomination, that movie. And he says that he's like, yeah, I did not write women well, and now I've changed that by bringing women into everything I do when I'm writing for them. But the parts that worked for me worked beautifully because you need to build Guts into a legend. That has to happen. Right now, Griffith is so much cooler than Guts. It's ridiculous. And I know people are going to be pissed, some of them, with me saying this. And I'm not.
I think most people agree that that's this point of the story, is that this is all about Griffith.
And even though Guts is fine and he's good and he's interesting, he's no Griffith. And so he's done some great things, but I think this is a legend building moment, especially the way that they share the field of death, so that you can see the slow movement and the individual battles, because there's clusters of dead bodies. The way they fall, you can tell that this is the maximum number of men who could charge him at a single time and not get in each other's way. And then he kills them all and moves back into a new circle of death. And so that was very legend building, and it was a very meticulous way of drawing it. And it did build his legend. And so I appreciated that. And as a reader who is hoping for Guts, who, even though he just killed a boy in a way that broke my soul, literally, I was like, you know what? I love how much legend this builds for Guts. I would love to see Guts overtake Griffith for me in coolness.
I'll also say something in this section that is really cool is we have the legend building, I think, is exactly what this scene is meant to be. I think you found something really special here, because we have the Blue Whale ultra heavy Knight's Core guy introduce his brother and be like, look at him. He's a legend. His armor is 3 times as thick as any other man's. No normal weapon can dent it. And we see Guts smash through it and say, this sword is 3 times as thick as any normal sword. It's not that good at cutting. So I what is it? It's something like, so I apologize if you don't die quickly or something.
Yes.
That feels like such a statement of, this is me becoming the legend. You want to talk this guy up about his armor? Well, this is no normal weapon, motherfucker. And it didn't cut. It smashed through your man.
And this is an important note of distinction that Prox just brought up that I wanted to talk about earlier, and I forgot. And this really articulated it well. Griffith did say he wanted an equal as a friend. And it isn't even a laugh, Prox. It's such a truth. That's kind of a fourth area for Guts when he's standing there, that he's like, I either win against these people in these odds, or I die trying, because I need to be an equal to Griffith to be a friend. And it is actually important to me to be a friend. And that may not be like a sitting on the top of his world thought, but it's definitely part of his thinking. That's really, really, really important. Here's what it is. He says, the thickness of Samson's armor, blah, blah, blah. He goes off in his little thing. And then he goes, out of the way. And then, where's Griffith? He says it. God dang it, I can't find it. It's not worth me finding it. But you're right. It was hilarious because he's like, it's dull, so you wouldn't want to be killed by it. So I apologize for you dying slowly or something. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. My weapon's not very sharp. Sorry about that, bud. This is gonna hurt.
Sorry about the method in which you're gonna die. I just thought that was a brilliant thing. And this legend building moment was worth it. But more importantly, when they come out and Griffith isn't even there at the end of everything, they have been left behind and Griffith isn't there. It felt like they were both like, yeah, exactly. We're all on our own. And then when she gets pulled aside to be told, he sent us after you, despite everyone telling him not to do it, and da 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 da. And he does think you're special. It was like, it was brilliant because you know that friend. We've all had that friend who never calls you, and you're putting way more into the friendship than they are. And then you're like, you know what? I'm done with this person. It's too much. It's bullshit. I'm moving on. And then they do something like radically kind. And then they're like, hey, you know what? I want to take you out for brunch. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Or, hey, I brought some beer over to come and see you. And you're like, every time I'm about to get out, they pull me back in. It was really that way. I am that friend too, Jelly Gremlin. For all my friends who are listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm ADHD. You exist inside of me. I'm definitely a spectrum human. I feel like we should just be just as good of friends the next time we see each other, but I shouldn't.
Yeah, my friends don't exist to me most of the time. Sorry about that, y'all.
I shouldn't have to maintain that friendship. It should just exist.
Yeah. I find it really unrealistic that in The Sims, the relationship bars decrease over time. That stays static, baby.
Just see each other, done. Everything's good.
Yeah. So I've been thinking more and more about your thoughts on the Casca scene, and I think I want to talk through some points that I think I want to push with you and see if you agree with some statements. Okay.
We move past the Casca
No,
scene.
but I think I have a thing where whenever there's a disagreement, I think every no, it's not about I want to push in. It's not just when I have a disagreement. I think everybody has intelligence geared in different ways, and one of the places I am smartest is I tend to be pretty good at seeing the through line and how multiple people are thinking and find the commonality between them. And I think I want to do that in this because I want to come to a conclusion, because I think there's some points we can agree. We're going to get to Campfire Dreams. I just want to be able to fully dig into it with this settled before we do. Okay.
I will give you very few minutes because I want to get to the Campfire Dreams, and also because you got to keep in mind that I'm coming from a lived experience.
Yes, and that's what I want to bring in, because okay. I think the first point that I think we can agree at, right, is I don't think Casca comes out of this looking weak, right?
She looks weaker than she did before.
That I think we can agree with, but she doesn't come across looking weak because she beats up a lot of dudes. She kills people. Even though she is not feeling her best, she's finding vulnerability in armor. I
honestly feel like it took some shine off of the gold. It literally took some of the gilding down because she is a commander who was above reproach, and I think this took some of her shine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you were feeling like she comes out looking lesser than going in, which I think is perfectly fair.
And I need you to keep in mind, there's almost no women in any positions of power, and you brought her shine down.
Okay. I think I'm all right coming out of that with that being the takeaway. I feel like she doesn't, it is humanizing, and I think here's my take at the end of this. Listen, hearing what you said, thinking about how I feel about it, I
Yeah.
think that what was being done here, a lot of it was a necessary goal of humanizing both Guts and Casca, furthering their relationship, making them rely on each other, showing the fallout from them overhearing Griffith and how it hurt them. I think we both agree with a lot of that. And I think what we can agree on absolutely is that the fine details of execution on a lot of that, while you can see why he chose what he chose, uh, doesn't really work. Like it comes through to not the results the author was looking for.
Would say that. And I would just say, like, I would caution any women writing about men, although I think it is honestly easier for a woman to write about men because there was once a woman who did a thing that's quite famous now where she said, somebody asked her why she thought she had a place to speak about men. And she said, well, you know, you're black and you know more about whiteness probably than most white people because you are the oppressed by that
Mhm.
group of people. So when you are oppressed by one group of people, you know everything about them. You have to. It's a survival thing. Well, it's the
Mhm.
same thing with women. We know
Well,
so much about
I
men.
think there's also just a lot more exposure. Like women have
That's the other
to
thing I was
live in
about
a
to say.
world where media is dominated. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think a lot of my favorite works ever are written by men. However, I think the average, if you were to average out quality, works, especially in Japan, written by women on average are better. And I think the reason for that is very simple, which is that women have a solid foundational perspective on men's view of the world because so much of the media they consume is written from a male perspective, and they have a solid grasp on women's perspective being a woman.
Yeah.
And I think that from what I understand, I think a lot of the reason this is so good is a lot of the same reason that we liked Undead Unluck so much, which is while this is a male author, uh, apparently he read a lot of shojo to study, which is women's media, to better understand Casca's perspective with liking Griffith and to make Griffith the kind of character you see in shojo, because shojo men are so charming, and he wanted to have a character who is incredibly charming and charismatic. So that's why Griffith comes across as a little bit more effeminate and pretty, because that's the archetypes of men in shojo. So I think the study of women's media is part of why this is so good. And the weak points of this media come from the fact that, think about it, if you were writing a story, a romance story for women, are you going to write about a woman's struggle as a warrior in a medieval battlefield?
No, also it's not just that. He's writing about women. He's reading women fictionalizing women for a
Yes.
market. He doesn't
Yes.
understand that those women already have the perspective of being a woman and they can fictionalize it in an interesting way that sells to men or
Well,
other women. If
well,
you
the
really
shojo is
wanted
very
to have done
specifically
this,
marketed towards women. I think it's
I agree,
important to
but if
note.
he had really wanted to do this, it would be better to get the women from women, and the
Yeah.
men that women are talking about could come from shoujo. That makes sense to me.
I
Somebody
think,
Full
but I
Metal
think there are
Alchemist,
aspects to Casca. Full Metal Alchemist is written by a woman and it's incredible. Yes. Same with Dungeon Meshi.
but you've already read those ones.
I have read one of them, watched one. Look, you can't just rule out everything I've read. I've read some good shit. I know you don't
No,
want to do
that's
them
the
as often.
problem. It's just that when you've already read things, it's a very different world for us.
Hmm. Look, I agree. I think this book club series where we do weekly,
You know
which
what
should
you
be new
could do
stuff.
though, Drawk, is I could
Yeah,
read Full Metal Alchemist on my own, and
yeah.
then we could read it together.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Or just read it
That would
on
be
your own.
that would
I
be a good
reread,
way.
and we just do an episode talking about it, like just one
Yeah,
episode,
I would like to do
maybe two, because it's
no,
got
I
two
would
pretty
like to do
distinct
a read of
halves.
it and then go through.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
but
what I did
so yeah,
think.
my ending
You were
result was just to say I think there are a lot of ways he writes Casca well, and they come from the research he's done. And I think the blind spots make total sense. And I agree that it wasn't handled perfectly, and I get that because your lived experiences, those ways stick out more.
yeah, there's
Um,
more, but I just don't want to get into it.
yeah,
And
I
I
I
don't
think
want to
it's
have
fair to move
all
on
our
from here. I just wanted
yeah,
to come to a good conclusion.
yeah.
And I will say I still get what he was doing, even if I think it wasn't like perfectly executed in the minutia. Where we got for the Campfire of Dreams, I really like.
Um I love Campfire Dreams, and I would have rather spent way more time on Campfire Dreams, honestly. But I
Yeah.
want to start with there was this elf, a traveling entertainment troupe I used to work for years ago. He was good folk, and he gave me this when I was badly injured in an accident. It's elf dust, and it's clearly Puck.
I mean,
And
it could be another elf. Who knows?
It looks like Puck to me.
Yeah, but it could be another elf. We don't know.
Listen to me, it's Puck.
Okay, you can say what you want.
And it pisses me off that other people who only got this as an anime never met Puck before. I was like, oh, what a.
I also realized that when the snake creature injures Guts, or Guts gets healing from Puck, and it really makes him vulnerable and more human in the prologue. And people who didn't get Puck healing Guts lost that. And
also, now that I know this, because this happens before Puck, and now that I know this moment that Casca comes up to him with this elf dust and heals him with elf dust, it really reconnects his vulnerability even more now that I see this. I'm like, holy shit, he was so vulnerable in that moment that Puck was healing him.
Huh.
Because it also brings back his memories of Casca and the first time elf dust was used on him.
I like that. Not to drag this on, but someone is saying that apparently our boy Mura regretted his treatment of women early on in the series and feels like he could have handled it better. So, like, I think that's cool.
That is cool. In the future, authors, just go and hang out with a few women. Tell them what you're thinking and actually believe them when they say things and take their ideas on. I even do it in my classes. I have kids, when they're writing from different perspectives, interview people from those perspectives, a few different people, so that they can write better. And then I have those people read it. I think it really changes things.
I agree. I think anytime you're writing an experience that isn't yours, it's important. I have a book I'm writing for Warhammer 40K that I want to pitch to them about a female protagonist that I've been having to run by women for that reason.
Here we are.
I definitely changed the pose from what it was
forever.
in the manga.
Like the reason that I wanted to read
the reason
this
you started. We're finally at the campfire.
was the campfire of dreams, and I've been looking forward to this for so much time.
I just want to blast right ahead and talk about. Can we immediately acknowledge how fucking beautiful the visual brought up? It's poetic, of Guts saying that all of these people are here for the central bonfire and he feels like he's just been warming himself.
Yeah, literally one of the most stunningly beautiful. Are you turning Griffith's hair into fire like a campfire?
I might be, madam.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant.
But like,
okay,
I just teared up thinking about that.
Every single person has a deep dream. Everybody is here. Okay, here it is. Here's this one. It ain't just you, Griffith's the same way. He's got something he'd bet his entire life on, and I think that's kind of amazing. And compared to that, if I were to go out and fight 100 or 1,000 men, it really wouldn't be a big deal. That's what I thought. And then he says the most amazing thing. He talks about all the individual people that he knows in the army. Nicole proposing to a woman who wouldn't marry a common soldier, but he swears he'll get promoted. Gaston wanting to open a clothing shop. And it shows that he doesn't even realize how special he is, in that he knows the backstories and the ideas of all these individual people. So while he is highlighting and shedding light on these individual people, so that when we look at these things that are firelights, we are thinking of all the individual people there, it also highlights Guts and how much of a person he is, how he knows the inner thoughts, needs, wants, and dreams of others, how lots of people can be in an army or in a job, because when I looked at these firelights, it made me think of the idea of an office and all the people who are working in cubicles, and how each one of those cubicles is kind of like its own campfire. and how they all have their hopes and dreams, but here they are just sitting by the campfire in the job they're currently in with all of these hidden ideas. And Guts is saying, I notice those hidden dreams. I notice what makes somebody special and important. I notice what matters in a person. And not only that, I see why it makes them so special. And yet he doesn't see that it makes him special, that he notices those things in others and that he cares.
This brought me it's beautiful. This is so beautiful. I just, so I don't lose it, need to mention that I had a feeling reading this that chilled me, where I realized all of this is what Griffith has. I don't think it's just Casca and Guts. I think Griffith is going to give all of the hawk for power, and that the reason Guts's motivation is so strong is that he is carrying on the torch of vengeance for all of these people.
Oh, dude.
I think he wants to carry all of those dreams, all of these people, because he feels this pain that he doesn't have all of this, that he doesn't have what they have, but it warms him. Feeling their motivation, their ability to have dreams, the thing that he doesn't have, that Griffith said is the most important thing. He is warmed. He is kept alive and glowing by the light of their wants to live.
By the light of their dreams.
Yeah. And having that taken, I think he is going to be getting vengeance not just for him. I think he's going to be getting vengeance for those fires that are going to be snuffed out to light the bonfire that is the true dream of Griffith. And I think in fighting Griffith, at the end, I think Guts, the reason Griffith acknowledges Guts as an equal, not to where he is now in the Guardians of Desire, but to what he was, in being impressed by him, in being impressed that the motivation that carries him, is because he is going to do what Griffith said. Someone who would put his dream above others, above his own, someone who would put his dream beyond Griffith's. This to me felt like picking up of the torch again. This was Guts becoming the protagonist again, because I think he has been given light. He has been given a fire by these other fires. He has kindled himself and been given the want to live onwards, the want to exist. And when Griffith goes to ascend and become something else, my prediction, make a prediction, is that Guts is going to become an equal, not to God Hand Griffith, but to the man Griffith, in being willing to try to stop Griffith to preserve his own fire, the fire that it is to see these people achieve theirs, to have this light that has kept him warm not go out.
You can kind of see that in page 140 of the third book, where he says the booze will disinfect me, moron, but who cares? Celebrate the 100-man kill, eh? And then he walks off and starts grinning at all the individual people, and it immediately shows the entire camp with the tents and all the tiny, tiny little fires glowing. And you can kind of see it, that he's walking into himself as a charismatic leader and as a person who's like, okay, if I get my warmth and my light from standing at the fires of others, then I'm going to stand at the fires of others. Okay, so let's stay in the fire for a minute, though, because it also shows the size of the army. Like when she goes, Campfire of Dreams, huh? And we look over the field, it's massive.
Wait, I need to acknowledge a chat question. Can you put a bookmark in that?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you for this whenever I can, but someone is saying, would Guts want to be an equal to Griffith or even remotely like him after that point? And I was going to say, no, Guts would not want to be an equal to Griffith once he ascends. But he probably has, because everyone in the prologue is talking about how Guts doesn't make sense, how a mortal can't fight demons like this.
Yeah.
And I think it is by pure strength of will and by being a mortal who puts all of himself into this that he has. I don't think he has special powers. But symbolically, that's not what a demon is. Symbolically, a demon is someone who has put themselves, their wants above those around him. And Guts,
agree.
by choosing to live on with the curse mark, has done so. By choosing to put his ambition to avenge the bonfire snuffed out by Griffith, to avenge the campfire of dreams, to keep its light alight, has sacrificed the humans around him. The priest and the girl who give him warmth, he chooses his want to have a nice rest over their lives. He has become like Griffith the God Hand in his pursuit of vengeance already. If I'm right about how this plays out, and I believe I will be, we have already seen in the prologue a Guts who has become like the demons around him by putting over the lives of those who ostensibly he tries to protect. You see him try to protect and hate that he's doing it and lie to himself.
I
Ugh,
think there's going to be something else going on there too with the sword.
love it.
I think he's going to get the sword in a way that the sword is a prayer or a chant,
I think it's a myth. I think it's the myth of Guts.
I feel like there's more. It's a
Well-
type of
well,
it's a
think
type
about-
of prayer. And
Think
to
about
me,
the
I
way that
feel-
he in you're talking
Let me
about this
finish
being
this
about
first.
legend building. Yeah,
I
you finish.
feel like
Sorry.
he's going like he's going to get the sword in a way that is going to attach or align him with saving the campfire of dreams, like saving their memory, their dreams, their hopes that were taken from them, is going to be poured into this sword eventually. It's going to be part of the story. I totally agree with you. I totally think that it makes sense that Griffith would have to give up his entire army that he built and his dream to be a king in the mortal world. That makes sense. I just think there's going to be something in there that allows Guts to elevate with the way that he is going to get this sword.
I feel like it has to be, to me, what kept being said has to be his heroic myth, because it's in this chapter. You pointed out that this is about legend building, and like I
is.
noticed, we see one man being introduced to the legend of his unbreakable armor, and then
Yeah.
Guts giving what honestly felt like a prototype of a chant, talking about this sword being dull and 3 times as thick as a normal blade.
Exactly.
Like, and this isn't even the Dragon Slayer. This is some early ass prototype Guts sword being
Which
introduced
really
this
makes
way.
me feel why that sword is going to be even more important. It's like the sword and him become one. And the sword is kind of like it's an instrument, but it's beyond an instrument. It's also a personality or there's a word I'm missing. You know, when you have a word and you're super missing it and it's everything,
I think I know the vibe of what you're talking about, and I can't find the word you're thinking of.
it's killing me. It's really killing me as a person with a pretty extensive vocabulary. I'm
Killing her,
feeling
Smalls.
convinced
It's
about it.
killing her.
It's killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. But what a cooler thing than her standing on the hill and saying, "Campfire dreams, huh?" And you look out and realize the immensity of this army. It's so much bigger than you think. And
Oh, God.
and then
Warming myself by the campfire of dreams is so beautiful.
and then maybe they've all brought their own individual little flames together. You could scatter them just by blowing in all those little flames and throw themselves into the biggest bonfire, the blazing infernal named Griffith. You know? My flame ain't here. As for me, maybe I'm just warming myself by that campfire for a bit. Maybe I just stopped by chance.
This is
That's
all so fucking beautiful.
incredible. Because talking about and this is kind of also lends into your theory, because you could scatter them just by blowing, so all those little flames throw themselves into the bigger bonfire that is Griffith. First of all, that makes Griffith a devil, bonfire flames.
Yeah.
Second of all, he consumes them with his larger fire. He eats their fires and their dreams up so they are nothing anymore.
Which is why he was willing to give up all of them to kindle his flame, or all of those torches tossed into
Exactly.
his light were lost for
Exactly.
nothing.
And he foreshadows earlier on too, when Griffith says that I need to get dirty if I'm going to stand on the body of corpses. And so he's already kind of foreshadowed that he's going to take all of these people away.
God, the writing is so precise. I feel like predicting this series is less like, oh, I've solved a mystery, and more like we've read poetry.
Like, pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also because of that, it's so beautiful because, you know, when you look at a group of individual tiny little droplets of water moving down a window pane, and each one of them has their own story and their own path, and you can watch it trace a path until they meet into one puddle. And then each individual drop of water suddenly means nothing. And that's kind of what Griffith is doing to these little campfires of dreams. And that's kind of what he's saying. Like, each one of their dreams is just building the fire or the pool of the bigger dream. And then suddenly all of their hopes, aspirations, fears, etc., become nothing but fodder for the larger fire. And I think this was a beautiful way of doing it, because not only is it going to make the sacrifice of these people so much more powerful, because we've thought about these individual fires as being individual dreams and a campfire of dreams, it's also going to make Griffith so much more of a villain.
Yeah, Berserk is so intentional. The reason it feels like poetry to me, and why I, a licensed poet, am the right person to take on this task, is
Good
the
God.
lack of wordiness, that every single line feels so thought out. And I think it's why other series could do the imprecision of Casca with it bothering you less. But
Yes.
for this man to feel
was about to
clumsy
say
because
that.
he's out of his element
Yes.
feels more like a betrayal than someone who's not as precise.
Yes. It's funny you should say that. Thank you for bringing it up, because I was going to say it's one of the reasons why the beginning of this, it upset me. And the further I read and the more beautiful this became, the more it upset me, because I was like, he's so meticulous. He's so thoughtful. He's so intentional. He has such deliberate beauty and thought and puts so much into everything he writes that now makes me feel betrayed.
Hey, are you all right with a little nerdy detour about something inspired by it? Berserk, because everyone keeps bringing up Dark Souls because I use the word kindled, and I want to talk about something beautiful.
Yeah.
So, hey, YouTube short. Lav, this is a YouTube short. This probably shouldn't go in the main video. I'm a big fan of Dark Souls, especially the first Dark Souls. And I've mentioned before that Dark Souls is this gritty video game that is inspired largely by Berserk. And the Campfire of Dreams is making me think a lot more about Dark Souls' bonfires. So in Dark Souls, bonfires act as a checkpoint. They are where you go to save, basically, effectively save your progress, because it's where you go back to when you die. However, they are far more meaningful than that. The fire in Dark Souls represents the age of humanity. Well, not the age of humanity, sorry, the age of the gods, the age of light, the age of hope and glory. That is what fires are meant to represent. And when the fire started to die, the king of the gods, Gwyn, lit his soul aflame to rekindle the fire and continue the age. But eventually it started to fade again, and Dark Souls 1 is usually a story about a undead, someone cursed by the fading of this light, to hunt down, gather powerful souls, and burn themselves alight on the bonfire to continue the Age of Hope. Why this is so relevant isn't because of that part of the story, but because of them as a checkpoint. In every Souls game, there are vacant bad guys that wander around mindlessly like zombies, undead who have lost their minds. But they represent something, because Dark Souls is highly metatextual. All of the Souls games are. In the metatext of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, those who are wandering represent players who give up. The game knows it's hard. The game is fully aware that it is a difficult game, and that you might give up and become lost before you reach the important parts. Something you'll notice in Dark Souls is there are fewer and fewer hollows, the beings who have given up, the further into the game you get, as things get more interesting, as you're more committed, because you're less likely to give up once you feel cool, once you felt the accomplishment of what winning in Dark Souls feels like. Why is this so relevant? Well, I think it is a direct inspiration from Berserk, that the thing that separates you from the ones who've given up, from the ones who've lost their ambition, who have failed in the pursuit of winning at Dark Souls, of kindling yourself and keeping hope going, are those who become disconnected from a campfire. Called a bonfire, it's a little campfire. You are kept motivated, dreaming, and in pursuit of something greater if you have kept revisiting and warming yourself by the fire. I think that's very pretty.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Dark Souls is a
Wow.
really thematically beautiful game.
No, we shouldn't do a whole tangent. But
Yeah.
I'm getting into gaming slowly. I'm moving myself
I
into
would
gaming.
love to do a Dark Souls stream with you where you and I draw. That sounds so much fun.
But I'm trying to decide what games to get into.
You'll
I'm
die
getting
so
into
much.
some cozy ones right now. I'm playing my Hollow Knight and my Totem and a few other ones.
All right.
And I'm trying to decide which game
That's also true. That's
purchase.
also true. Whenever you rest at a bonfire in Dark Souls, you're likely to see other players online as holographic ghosts, seeing the other people who are warming themselves who haven't given up yet. It's great. It's really pretty.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about page.
All right, we ready to keep moving?
I'm not moving. If it makes
Madre?
you feel, am I there?
She gone. Shit. Oh, my internet cut
No!
out. That's why. I'll be back.
Am I there?
Ba-da-ba.
Bop. Am I here? Am I back? Am I here?
I
Am I
think
here?
I'll be back.
Am I here?
Okay, so I have enough internet for Streamlabs, but not Discord. So you guys can hear me, but Mama can't. This isn't on her.
Am I back yet?
You're back.
Excellent. All I did is just restart it. Okay.
Oh,
So,
yeah, cool.
I just
So
wanted to
maybe it
say,
was on you.
I don't really want to okay. I don't really want a tangent, but I do want to talk to people about like getting into my games more and what blah 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 things to buy. I'm thinking of getting a Steam Deck, etc. But I don't want to move forward. I want to
Steam
get
Deck's
stuck
so
on the
good.
page where she says Campfire of Dreams.
Oh, I just meant
and-
move forward as in not talking about Dark Souls.
Oh, okay. And the reason is in the Bonfire of Dreams, one of the things that I appreciated the most is the way that the bonfires blend into the stars. And I love how it's such a decision by Kentamura to reflect like the theme of the interconnectedness of like destiny and the fragility of human and ambition and dreams, and how it merges off into the stars, so that we're looking at like they have a collective destiny, but they're each individual dreamers, and they are so impermanent. These campfires need to be fed constantly. They need to be given things to continue to live. The humans have to interact with them to make them stay bright. And when the morning comes, they gone. And meanwhile, the stars just glow impossibly, control their destiny. They eat and burn and don't need to be fed, and they will die, but they'll die in so many, many millennia from now that it's not even a thought. And it makes the campfires, even though they are the brighter, bigger thing in this picture, feel like they are the weaker, more vulnerable, more fragile thing in comparison to the lights of the stars above them. And there's like this continuation of the bonfire into star moment, which shows us the like total impermanence, the transient lives of each of these dreamers, and how little they mean in the large scope of things, and how it's guts that gives them meaning, while the stars and their permanence and their beauty and their lack of transience stand there like a collective destiny into the future. And so talking about Griffith and the way that he feels like the blazing inferno, feels like Griffith is becoming a star. He's the star of the show, and he will supersede all these small dreams and just use them as fire for his bonfire, which will have a great deal more permanence. And I think that's kind of amazing.
Oh, this series is pretty in a lot of ways. It's
And so I
Casca.
think that is such a beautiful moment that the author did that, because it makes all these big bonfires feel like they are just these temperate things, and that it makes sense. You could scatter them, you could blow them out, you could choose not to feed any more logs into the fire, and they would just go away. And meanwhile, the stars would stay above.
Casca and Guts's relationship is just being built so well. It feels so compelling to read along with. Like every bit of understanding they find for each other. You know what? You know what is I'm going to reiterate something, guys. No, to go back to last week. I said that I think what Griffith was saying to Charlotte was real. But I do stand by that it was real, but phrased in a way meant to convince instead, and said more to Guts and Casca. Because I think this to me feels like the first really earnest heart to heart between characters. And it's hard to, can anyone help me put my finger on how? But doesn't the framing here feel inherently different to the framing we had when when Griffith in the past has been talking about how he sees the world and what he believes? Like, doesn't this feel like two people not trying to convince each other of anything? Okay, I'm broke. We tried our best to fix Dog Camp. This feels like no one's trying
We
to
saw
convince
it
each
for
other.
a minute. We really did see it for a minute. Bring doggy
Yeah, but
up.
it was frozen. That wasn't where he was. He was curled up in bed. It does feel
Okay,
like Griffith
say
might be
that
trying to
again.
convince himself.
Say it again, because my brain almost clicked into something.
Yeah,
but
I
didn't
feel like I wasn't sure exactly how to say it is the issue.
I will
But
say it in a different way.
I feel as though last episode we talked about Griffith speaking to Charlotte and feeling like he was really talking to
Yeah.
Casca and Guts.
Yeah.
But also he was framing in a way to convince and manipulate. While he might have been telling the truth about his feelings about things, uh, it also felt as though it was being said to convince.
Yes.
Whereas, like, this conversation feels fully vulnerable. It just feels like they are talking about what they believe and observe for no reason other than to say it, to be heard by each other. And it's, God, the subtlety is so beautiful in this. It's just
This-
it's so real, feels
This
like them
moment
just
felt-
talking.
This moment felt really interesting. Do you remember during the heat of the pandemic, we went to Tofino and
Mhm.
we were out on the beach. Ashlyn came with us in the beginning. There were bonfires all up and down the beach,
I love that.
everywhere
Yeah.
on the beach, and people were in their own little bubbles, having their own hopes and dreams and thoughts and worries and concerns. And yet we were a community. And it was the most community we have been able to be during the pandemic, because we could sit 6 feet away from another bonfire and you could talk to a people at another bonfire while being in your own little world. When I was looking at this, it reminded me of that, about how we were standing on the beach, everyone was on the beach, and I was coming down from the campsite up on the cliff, and I was overlooking all the fires. And so this was really impactful for me, because I started to think about how I saw all the fires and realized that every single one of these, that idea of Shakespeare's we're all but poor players on a stage, and how we are all extras in somebody's life. And I was watching this and thinking about all the different things people have been going through in the pandemic, and all the worries and all the lack of community. And then as I was making my way to our fire and mingling in them, I got to hear all these little conversations of people just having earnest, real conversations, frank conversations with people across a fire where it was safe and the virus was being burnt up in the middle. And how it felt like the most real I had ever got to hear people be, that nothing felt performative and everything felt honest and everything felt earnest. And there's something about a bonfire and night that makes people come together in a more real way. It's like showering together. It's hard to be a liar when you're standing naked in a shower. And so there's something really real and very vulnerable and very warming. So when Griffith is talking about getting warm, or sorry, when Guts is talking about getting warmed by the fire, I also thought about what it means just now when you were saying that, to be warmed by humanity and to be warmed by other people's dreams, and not need to be performative or trying to be something you're not, just to legitimately enjoy getting to be a part of somebody else's life and see who they really are.
I think I mentioned before how Guts to me came across as sad that he wasn't doing it right, that everyone was having all these beautiful interactions. And he, at the beginning, I think episode 2, I talked about how it seemed like he was sad that he wasn't part of it. But it seems like he's found so much joy and peace at just being adjacent to this now. And it's really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. It is beautiful. He says in this one part, I don't want to die, but just because I didn't want to die, just because I didn't know more than how to use this, I just kept fighting in battles. Like I said, I'll fight until the end of the campaign, even if I have to crawl. it kind of made me feel like he wasn't realizing the shine that he was giving, and that his bonfire comes from this deep tenacity, this unwillingness to give up, this need to be, as long as there's a breath in his body, to be fighting. And I think that was the other thing I'd hoped for Casca when she put the thing through the guy's eye. It was that thing that Guts just said that I saw as being part of Casca's personality, and to have it taken away made me kind of like, ugh. But then we see Guts do a thing that is really weird. It's called smiling. He smiles. Griff has come back. He said he heard you two were safe and advanced his schedule by a day. And then it shows Guts turn around and smile at Casca with his sword over his shoulder. And then they have these conversations, and then Guts slaps her on the ass in a like playful, hilarious way, and has a moment of humanity, like sitting at the top and talking about other people's dreams and the impact of all of this made them, everything they've been through, made them be more human together. And I was like, nice. That's nice.
Can I say that this panel gave, first of all, Skelly Boy, I'm going to get to your comment. Don't feel that's not silly at all. That's a really good observation. And when we're done with this, I want to get to that because it's actually really pretty. I want to talk about that.
That is pretty.
But what I want to talk about first, you know what? I just realized this. Oh, whatever. What I want to talk about first here is that panel gave me a weird amount of joy, because shortly after reading it, I was browsing Reddit, and I don't follow the Berserk Reddit, but I've been clicking on enough anime things lately that it recommended a post from the Berserk Reddit. Accidentally clicked on it because I don't know why. Just sometimes mindlessly browsing, you do that. And it was that panel, and it was someone saying, I just find this panel really charming and funny. It was it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, it is a bit weird for something so early in such a long series to be getting attention right now when we happen to be there. There's a chance there's someone reading along with us, either for the first time or rereading. And the idea, like, I know it's not even guaranteed, but the idea that we could be having an effect on the Berserk community, even in that way, that there's someone going through either for the first time or again who's reading that part, made me feel already like we're a part of this little community of strugglers. And it made me really happy to think that we're part of this group appreciating a story together in a tangible way. I really liked it.
Really cool.
Yeah, I really liked
Griffith's
it.
speech given in a plaza surrounded by walls that separate the castle from the speech is amazing. The idea that I didn't see that, Skullboy, I love the idea that he is behind a wall, that he's holding his vulnerability back, and meanwhile everyone else is out in the open air. That's good. Yes.
Golden Age gets the most attention, fair, but hey, we're here for the
I also
movie.
like that Guts takes the guys away and says, come on, let's go toss one back. Are you really into it, Captain? Like the casual way he chucks his arm over the soldier's shoulder, and the casual way in which he walks away and smiles at the men as he's going off to sit and warm himself by one of their fires, to hear their dreams, to think about their lives, was amazing. It is the first time we've seen that of Guts. He has never been casually happy or intentionally friendly in this way, and to see him doing that with these people was exactly what you were talking about earlier. It was like he was coming into his own and had decided, I don't need to be to stand in front of Griffith and wait for his light to shine on me. I'm going to go stand by the lights of others.
It feels like he's been liberated to enjoy this more by having Griffith say what he said. Like somehow no realizing he's not Griffith's equal has made him be like, okay, I am appreciating what I do have, and what I do have is these people I get to be with and understand and be liked by, and just the fact
that's
that
going to make Griffith either like him more or look for more moments to humiliate him, like one of the two.
I think both. I think Griffith is the kind of person that this is going to do both to. He's going to feel the need to bring Guts down, but also like him more and appreciate him more and want him more.
Yeah.
Like,
it definitely made Casca want him more. I'll tell you that for sure. The
I
look
mean-
she gives him as he walks away, as he's like, the booze will disinfect me. What's wrong? And then he smiles at them, and then he goes, was he serious? And she turns around and watches him leave. I was like, somebody definitely has a full ass crush on Guts.
I also think her coming to understand him is so much more beautiful in this section because, oh my god, this story is so intentionally written. It's so poetic. Think about it. When he comes back to Griffith after the fight where he goes off on his own and impresses everybody, she's mad both that he's getting all the attention and that he didn't follow orders, and is like, you just want to go out there and swing your sword.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He then talks to Griffith like, she said that I just want to fight. I care so much now. She didn't see that and saw him as just wanting glory and to steal more of Griffith's attention. But
Yeah.
she now has firsthand experience that when he just, quotes, wants to swing his sword, he is protecting people. He's keeping them out of danger. He's keeping their fires alight, because he's been saying this whole time, he doesn't have a drive to live. He does, beyond surviving, beyond fighting. It's all he's been trained to understand. But by fighting, he can keep someone else's light alive. And he
Yeah.
referenced what her dream was, sending
Yeah.
her off. Said, go be a sword if that's what you want. Go to your sword master.
Yes.
And then when she came back, he's like, I just wanted to swing my sword. Basically saying, that thing that you saw as me wanting to swing my sword, that was me protecting people. That was me letting their dreams live on.
Yes, exactly. They're super gonna hook up.
I mean, probably. I think it's going to piss off Griffith, because he'll have lost control over his
It's
property.
gonna piss Griffith off in a major way. They're
Both supposed to be
definitely
obsessed with him. They
A,
can't
they're
find
gonna
joy
hook
in
up,
each other.
and B, Griffith is gonna hate any of her love and his love pulling away from Griffith towards each other, because there's something about a couple where their love bounces off of each other. The reciprocal love actually makes a bigger flame between the two of you. And I think that that's going to just, he is not going to like that. And you don't want to be in the center of that fire. It's going to be quite interesting. The Holy Purple Rhino Knight, that name
So dumb. I love it.
is so stupid.
I was talking
But on the
to,
other
to-
hand,
I
I almost want to give my drip to this kid today. So let's do our
closing segments. Well, then someone's got to count you in first, because we got to do something counted in before we can talk about our closing
You
segments.
heard me. I need to be counted in. Let me be counted in. Count. Oh, 10. Well, that stopped.
I guess
9.
10. Oh, 9. Wait. What if it has to be 10 different people this time? 10 different people.
Whoa.
Nope, Rafts doesn't count. Fighters does. Brother Onions does. We're down to 7. Come on, guys. You can do it. 10 different people.
Raph should have counted. Raph, do another one. Oh, Raph already did one.
Raph, don't do another one. Frost Tiger did it. There we go. Frost Tiger got us to 6. 5 more, everybody. EA Killer 5. EA Killer gets it. Parasocial No Me 4. We got this. It's slow mode counting. Dr. Jack 4. Jelly Gremlin 3. Brother Onion 2. He called it. First time chatter 2. Because Brother Onion already done one. The first time chatter. Drow 7 gets 2. And 1.
And here I go. Hi, YouTube. If you've been watching along so far and you've gotten this deep in, you obviously like this, or it really made you angry. Either way, press like. It's weird to not like things that you liked. Also, consider subscribing. Subscribing will mean that every time something comes up for us, you will get to see it. We have things coming up such as Party Piece, and Party Piece is our ability to take different parties. We spin on the wheel. We have to put together the greatest one-piece party. We're not allowed to reuse characters, so that means we're going deep into the One-Piece world. Our next one is going to be a D&D group. Thankfully, I have a ace up my sleeve because I'm going to need it, given that Drawk is a bloody D&D god, and I am very not. And then we're going to be bringing in guests to do that. And we also are just going to be looking at One Piece in general, doing our talks, our things with this. And plus soon, Drawk and I are going to start to talk about what's next. What manga are we going to want to read next. And so if you want to be part of that chat, you're going to want to come in for that, because I think we're going to pick early. I do want to do one that I read, that Drawk has already read on my own in my own time, that we can then go through chapter by chapter. I think that would be fun. And for some people, that would be, what's the one that they said today that looked good?
Full Metal Alchemist.
And for some people, that would be Chainsaw Man. But we'll talk about how it is, and you'll get an opportunity to look at that. So press like. It's free for you to do, and it really helps us out. Subscribe. We're not going to bother you once you subscribe. We don't send you a bunch of emails. Feel free to become a Patreon if you want. Let me take this moment to thank our Patreons. We love you. You are the OGs. Drawk, do you want to pick a Patreon that we're picking out individually today?
I forgot we're doing that early now instead of at closing, so I never have it ready. Everyone bear with me.
In the meantime,
vamp.
Right up here on this screen, you can see our address. That's our physical address that you can send things to. The postal workers strike is over, so you can send things again. Yeah.
You can send things. We'll actually see it. We'll see it at some point.
Actually receive it again. So
we will.
You can send it to our P.O. box. And come and join us in Discord. Our Discord people are amazing. We have so many sub things going on in there. Okay, did you pick a person?
I sure did. And if anyone's wondering what my method of picking is, it is really complicated. I scroll around randomly on the page of patrons. I see where it lands. If I've read the name before, I don't read it. And if the name is boring, I pick the person right above or below them. So today we're thanking White Whale Windmills. Thank you, White Whale Windmills.
Are you kidding me? We have to, just first of all, I need to say White Whale Windmills is hilarious and I love that name all day and all night. But I insist you read out the names of normal people too.
What, I have to do boring ones too? Oh, okay.
That's not nice. Don't call people's names boring.
Well, I'm going to pretend I didn't land on White Whale Windmills and, or I did land. I did land on them and it doesn't, we don't have to know who I didn't read out. They had an interesting name.
Okay, from now on, Drawk is just going to read the one he lands on, and he's not going to be a jerk about people's names.
I won't rate your name. Probably.
I love this drawing, by the way, but I'm not done.
I think this is really cool. It's not my best work, but the concept is strong.
Second promo. You ready?
Yeah.
Hey, like and subscribe!
Guys, I needed to read Chainsaw Man because Chainsaw Man Part 1 will already take a long time. And then to get to Part 2, it needs to happen because I need somewhere that I can rant about a femcel queen.
I just want to say before I forget about your drawing, I like that the center is done in blue since blue is the hottest part. So I think it's really cool that the center of your piece is in blue, which is the hottest part, and then it moves out towards the other colors.
Yeah, but
it's
meant to be the hottest part of the fire, but also look cold because it's hypothermia.
Exactly. You did a really good job there. So I was just about to say that, but then you went and dropped it up. I'm down to my last Berserk book. I'm going to need to buy a new Berserk book.
You do need to buy a new Berserk book.
I can't read online like some kind of online reader.
You probably could. It's probably allowed.
No, it's not true. I read legit Hawaiian bought me the 3 deluxe editions. How do I go backwards from deluxe editions to online? How?
You accept that you are now a peasant. You accept that you're a commoner and a peasant and embrace it.
No. Squishies, can you believe this? I can't believe you just said that. Okay, let's do top 5 characters.
Top 5 characters?
You get to pick first this week.
I get to pick the first one. Yeah. I know we weren't unanimously on board with her treatment, but I think overall Casca is a number 1 here. I think she was great.
I would agree.
There were some missteps, but I don't think it diminishes entirely her presence here.
Her character to me, I'm going to build her in my own mind and I'm going to create my own things for her, but I would agree. I would say that number 2, and it's impossible to believe this, is still Griffith.
Which is crazy because he's barely here, but you're right.
I'm not wrong, though. I mean, call me out on it.
The real issue is there's very few characters in this section. I'm going to say...
It really isn't.
So that was number 2?
Yeah.
Number 4 is the queen.
Oh, she's the real one.
Putting the caps lock back on royalty.
You know who number 3 is? And this is not an unhappy thing for me?
Who's that?
is the piece of shit whale captain
Now-
whale armor.
Is it partially because of his drip?
I mean, it is, honestly, but it's also just that love him or hate him. I personally am on the hate him side.
Yeah.
He is a big presence and push
Man
in
pushes the
this part of
swords
story.
forward for sure.
Yeah, I hate him, but yeah.
hmm
Okay, so number 5.
I'm trying to think of anyone who is actually in
Jelly
this at
Gremlin.
all, but I kind of just want to say number 5, or you said number 4, so I got to do number 3, huh?
Oh, yeah, you got to do number 3. No, we did number 3, didn't we?
You,
No,
I thought
we
you did
did
number 2,
1,
Griffith.
2.
You know what? I'm going to retroactively promote the queen because I forgot a few people are in it. She's number 3. Number 4 is Judo.
I did number 4.
Oh, what? I thought you did number 5 for your boy. Number 5 is Judo. Number 3 is the queen. I like that better, anyways.
I love that Jelly Gremlin mentioned this because I can't believe that we didn't. His special technique was passed down from the family for generations. Are you kidding me right now?
I'm sorry.
Every time he said something, this special torture technique was passed down from my family for generations. You know what? How about you just, I mean, respectfully, shut the fuck up.
I love how you can say that respectfully just by adding the words respectfully.
I'm talented that way. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
cool that you
number
can
1
make
drip.
shut the fuck up respectful.
Do I get to be number 1 drip first?
I think you can do your first drip. Yeah.
Okay, I'm picking the queen.
See, I was going to pick the queen as the issue.
Yeah, obviously you were. I mean, the woman is number 1, but there's another one to pick.
There's a couple more to pick. I think you're forgetting that this has some options.
I think you're forgetting that there's one in particular that is clearly better.
Are you saying the Purple Rhino Knight?
Yes.
You think the Purple Rhino Knight
It shows
deserves
up
it?
for 1 second, and immediately I was like, "Am I going to push the queen out?"
Yeah, it's a Purple Rhino Knight.
Yeah, I didn't.
I
push the
did.
queen out, but I
I
debated.
debated doing tank top only Casca just to bug you, but I didn't.
That's rude. I mean, come on. Okay. Are we going to do our happiest moment?
We can, but I think we got to do our protagonist ranking for Mr. Guts, which I think is creeping up to an A, or at least an A minus. What do you think? A or A minus? Where's our boy?
I am an A. I'm sorry. It is an A with the Field of Dreams. Come on.
Yeah, I think it was an A minus, if not for the Bonfire of Dreams, and that bumps him to an A.
The Bonfire of Dreams moved it up to an A, and literally was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was so beautifully done.
I saw a comment earlier that I think I agree with, which was that Berserk is a happy series masquerading as sad, and One Piece is a sad series masquerading as happy. And I think I actually do agree with that, because I think about how often reading One Piece, I'm like, oh, I'm miserable now because I have been given the most pain possible by this cheerful little series. Because to be as happy as One Piece is, it needs to be really sad. But this needs moments of happiness to be as sad as it wants to be. But I think, weirdly enough, it does overall make it less sad, because these happy moments aren't just happy, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the beauty that really saves this and makes it so that it's tolerable and not just soul sucking.
This was
okay. Which one do we do? Do we do happiest moment and then worst moment, or
I
saddest
think we can
moment?
do it in any direction.
No, we do saddest moment and happiest moment, right?
Okay, I guess so. Wait, our editor said we shouldn't do minor characters, so should we do minor character?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that. Minus Puck.
Here's Puck. That is a pretty minor character in this section.
Yeah, and I'm still doing
So
it.
for anyone who's not aware, in other series we do favorite minor character as a segment, but our editor was like, "But you don't do it for this one."
You
so now
don't
we
do
have
it for
to,
this one, so don't
because
do
we
it.
got not to.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
the rule.
You do it now.
My favorite minor character is my armor's 3 times thicker than normal man.
That's so for real. That one is the right call. Okay.
He's gone now.
My saddest moment. I hate saying it, but I think my saddest moment is in the bonfire.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna say
Explain-
that it was the selling his ass, but Griffith selling his ass. But no, my saddest moment is where Griffith is, or sorry, Guts is just sitting there and thinking about his entire life and feeling like he doesn't have any real dreams and that he just has to glimpse off the fire of others. And I thought
That's
that was really sad.
well, that's funny because I'm stealing. If you were gonna do your bit again, I'm stealing your your. Wait, we're doing sad first. Fuck. I was gonna do that as my happiest moment. Well, now I can't. Now you can do your bit if you want to, because I am going to not being allowed to do that. Let me think. Let me think. I think for my saddest moment this section, it's going to be in the same scene, Guts saying that his time with the Hawks is done after this campaign.
Yeah. Okay, my happiest moment is when he smacks her ass, puts his arm
Okay, never
around
mind.
somebody, and walks
You're not doing
around
your bit,
with a
yeah.
smile on his face.
Yeah. Look, to be fair, she did say she wanted to be treated as one of the boys. That's how you do it.
I smack all the boys on. No, I don't, because I just realized I'm in a job where there's boys.
Yeah, you
So when
shouldn't.
I said it, I forgot that I am in a job where there's boys. So no.
There are
By
boys
boys,
at your
I
job.
mean like your dad. And that
Uh-huh.
is true. I do just randomly, if I'm coming up to the door and he's in my way, I actually just do smack his ass and walk by, and I'm like, "Good game."
My happiest moment was him saying he's warming himself by the bonfire of dreams. It was such a beautiful statement, and as much as
Okay,
it's
so
sad,
you made your happiest moment the one that I made my saddest moment, and that
Yeah.
says everything we need to say about this.
I think
manga.
that says a lot about, first of all, that scene, and second of all, Berserk, that they are both like, I get it being your saddest, but it's also the moment that made me like, oh, that's actually really beautiful. The idea that he finds so much. So recently a bunch of people were out of town, so my dog park days have been really boring and lonely, and it's been weird because I miss it the most on the days where I'm in a bad enough mood that I wouldn't have talked to anyone anyways, because there's just so much joy of being near people you like and hearing them live their life. It's really soothing and it makes you feel like part of something.
Yeah.
And everyone came back recently, and it's been so nice to just be around these people I know and like. And I felt so much joy for Guts seeing that he was warmed just by seeing people he knew and liked and being around them. That was enough for him to be feeling warmed. And it was sad that he had to leave, which is why that's my saddest moment, because he feels as though this isn't a place for him anymore.
And
That
I
if
felt
he
so much sadness for Guts, feeling like he didn't bring his own fire to be warmed by.
oh oh what a beautiful series in so many ways.
And so literally we're both right. I would agree. Like that is one of the happiest and saddest times. But I think my happiest was when he got to have that casualness, even if it was forced.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was forced, but that casualness with the people in his army and just
Okay.
walking around was
Can we also talk about how well written it is, that it feels like Gut slapped her ass so that she'd jump up into Griffith's arms to be like, I'm wingmanning
Yes.
for you, buddy, not
Yes.
realizing that she's getting a crush on him, and suddenly
Yes.
the guy who she has a crush on just slapped her ass. It's
Yes.
kind of like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of good.
It's super cute because he's like, he's like, I'm wingmanning you. And then she's like, oh my God, the guy I like to smack my ass.
It's good. It's good shit.
It's super adorable. Yeah, no, they're going to love each other, which is going to make it even harder when she dies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
going to suck.
This series is painful, but boy, is it good.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, do we do anything else?
Probably. Who knows? I don't think so. Let's move on.
Who knows?
Well, I don't remember.
No, don't say that. What did we say? What was the other thing we usually do? Oh, we need to talk about where we're reading to next.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we don't know.
That's written somewhere, right?
Lav isn't here. We have no idea where we're reading to next. It could be literally, it could be anywhere.
Great. Do you want to go check
Yeah,
that?
eventually
'Cause it's in
Casca
the-
dies for sure, Art. I really feel like Casca
Well, that
is
doesn't
gonna
even
be
feel like a prediction.
But it doesn't. Does it feel like a prediction to you, Drawk? It doesn't feel
Like
like
it
a
doesn't
prediction.
feel like a thing worth saying.
Like I just think she has to die. Like how does somebody? Because he clearly has felt the love and warmth and glow of the fires of others. He clearly is going to have a relationship with Casca, and they're gonna hook up. And so, in order to be the person that he is when we first meet him,
Because he is that guy. We see him be that guy.
then he's got to go through some big traumas, which means that, hey, that glow you did a minute ago underneath the eye was actually tremendous, and you should put
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
bright yellow glow
I'm
back.
doing it. I'm just figuring out
So it
the
means that
exact way.
she has to do the dying, obviously. Yeah.
It does feel like she can't be alive. If she is, I'll be shocked.
Yeah, I would be really shocked if she doesn't die. I actually would be. That would be a prediction, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 32, Tombstone of Flames 2?
Darn.
Tombstone of Flames? Oh, dude,
Then-
I would love to read more. I would love to break the rules and go with this random person who said we should read to chapter 40. I've been craving longer reads.
Yeah, they feel short, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we break the rules? Do we go off book?
We've all you know what the problem is? I don't know if Brother Onion has done the one that is that was laid out for us by Stazzy Boy, or what, we can't read the rest of volume 3. That's what? If you could see how much that was, Drawk, you would be blown away.
Would I?
Do you wanna-
Or would I think, hell yeah, let's do it, homie?
Do you want to read a chapter 40 and be bad kids?
I mean, Lav wouldn't want us to. And Lav has the
Brother-
flu.
God dang it, Brother Onion made this with Stazzy, so we have to read it, and it's from the schedule.
Wait, what?
Yes. But look,
Brother Onion,
Brother Onion.
Brother Onion,
Me
let
and
us read to
Stazzy
chapter
made it
40.
together. It's from the schedule.
Brother Onion, let us read to 40.
If Brother Onion wasn't here, we'd be reading to 40 right now, and instead we're reading to 32.
Brother Onion, let us. Let's do it.
We're such bad kids. Okay. We have to stop at 32. We can't be that bad, Drawk. We can't be that bad. What if we read to 34?
What if we read to 40?
No, don't be that bad. You got to know how to be bad, Drawk. I was very good at it with One Piece. Read to 40 in secret. Secret.
Can we break,
Secret.
Brother Onion, can we break you down at all? Can you just like give up and let us have our fun?
Brother Onion, can you give us permission to be bad, please? Being bad is our favorite thing. And you're in charge, Brother Onion. You get to be the bad maker. Brother Onion is the bad
Getting to
one.
40 is adding a whole other section. That part is ultra dense. Ugh.
Oh, God damn it.
Ugh, don't have reasons. I want to read more. Okay.
Fine. We'll read to 32. Only because you put, if Brother Onion hadn't been here today,
Stazzy is
We would've been-
36 as a stopping point. Oh, wow. I think Stazzy changed his mind on some stuff after consulting the Onion, though.
yeah, I think so too. I think Brother Onion and Stazzy got together. Okay, we're reading to 32.
Okay,
we're gonna
reading to
good
32.
hits.
Tragically.
You know what, strugglers? This has been a hard section, and I'm glad we were here with you because it's also been a beautiful section.
God, this series, it's wonderful.
It's just been such a ride. And it was really interesting to hear the perspective that one of the strugglers squishies put in here. Squishy strugglers, one of the SSs put in here. Ooh, no, you shouldn't call people SSs.
Yeah, you don't say, huh?
No, I'm gonna reverse that.
You
Done.
sure? You
Yeah,
don't think
no, I
that's a
took it out.
chill thing to call a person?
That was S's backwards. Anyway, that they put in here, finding out that Kentaro Miura said that he regretted some of the ways that he wrote women in the early parts actually makes me really happy. And it is because it is what you said that I was going to say, and you said, which was nice. that he is such a detailed, thoughtful, intricate writer that it did feel like disservice. I felt let down. And so to find out that he also felt like he let it down was actually very soothing.
I think this series, the more I read of it, the more I'm sad that its only reputation comes from being sad. Like, that's all people get, is that it's sad and brutal. That's the only popular reputation of Berserk, or that the art is pretty. Like, that's all I ever hear about it. Because this
people
series
don't talk
deserves
about
to be
the
known.
actual series being beautiful, the actual writing being beautiful
The writing is beautiful and thoughtful and mature and
and
like,
intricate.
yeah, because I think most things that are known for being brutal and tough and hard aren't those things. They aren't well considered. They aren't thoughtful. They aren't emotionally mature and thought provoking. That's not what you associate with those things. So I wish its reputation reflected more what I think is so special about it.
I would agree. I'm pretty surprised that people don't talk about it. Hey, Dr. Jack is right. This drawing is fire, not just because Griffith is fire, but also just because it's like it's primo.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Berserk that I've been feeling like doing such like playful work with color, but I really just have been feeling like a lot of joy from this series playing with color.
Keanu Reeves being a Berserk fan is so for real.
What is this?
Keanu Reeves apparently is a Berserk fan.
That makes sense to me.
Also, he's Canadian, and therefore that much.
Is he
cool.
Canadian? I forgot that. Keanu Reeves is a Berserk fan. What's his? Oh, Taika Waititi's a One Piece fan.
I could see that too. I'm surprised he's not a Berserk fan though. Pop out for Taika Waititi in there's a book I read that he's now turned into a series. What's it called?
I don't know.
I'm looking it up. In case you're wondering what this silent patch is. Interior Chinatown. You should watch Interior Chinatown. It is an amazing series.
Fun tip for artists out there: if you want your art to feel slightly warmer, you copy your line art layer, blur it slightly, put a dark color appropriate to the tone you want. So we're going to do a dark red over a lot of it, and then a dark blue over some of the hair. Oh, this should be underneath, actually. Well, this part. Don't worry, we're getting there. So.
Yeah, you're right. That's way better.
No, we're getting there. We're getting there. Give me a second here.
So much better.
Change that. Now we're going to do a dark blue in the iris because we want colder tones in there.
Oh. Ooh.
And then to make this just look blurred and warm, we're going to change the opacity to 25% and look at the effect that gives.
Oh, that's stunning.
Look at it without. Crisp, clear, clean, and with warm, inviting, kind of flourishing. I'm going to lighten it over here a little bit is all.
That's actually amazing. I made fun of you because I was into it, but it's actually amazing.
So just a little digital art tip that I feel like you can get a lot of mileage out of if you want a nice, warm, and inviting tone for something.
It's so beautiful. I love this one so much. This would be an incredible jacket with this on the back.
I could see it, but it would need borders for that. Anyways, are we good?
Oh, that is the border. We're good, man. We're good.
Oh,
we killed it.
Speaking of Warhammer, I need to find a way to force you to have time to do more Warhammer lore videos because I want to actually make videos out of that, and it was so much fun.
Force everyone to subscribe so I can quit my job, retire early, and then all I will do is manga and Warhammer, play games.
Oh, actually, yeah, if you want this to be her full-time job, definitely subscribe, join the Patreon. You know what? We should talk about that more. How, like, you could retire early and we could make more content together if people joined the Patreon.
That's not a lie. I'd quit in a minute. Bye, kids. Kids will be like, what? I'd be like, I'm a full-time YouTuber now.
Yeah, what, you think I was going to stick around when that was my career
I'm sorry,
option?
I'm a full-time YouTuber now. I have important things to do. If you'll excuse me, I'm playing a Warhammer game. I'm thinking of playing a Warhammer game. I saw some person say that he learned more lore from the Warhammer game than ever from reading anything or doing anything.
Warhammer Space Marine 2 is actually really cool.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I fucking Oak Tea, because she's great.
I love her. I also need to find out, like, I
want to find someone else.
I want to do a
regularly
stream
raid
with
on
our
Sundays.
Patreons where they talk about games I should try and things that I should buy
idea.
for
Maybe
handhelds.
that's next Patreon stream is picking a video game.
Not only a video game, I want to pick a few video games, and I also want to talk about like what handheld device, because I'm looking at Steam Deck, but do you know you don't even really own your Steam games? That's upsetting.
Okay, you don't technically own any digital game, and it sucks. It's a thing they put in terms and conditions. From what I understand, as long as the guy currently in charge of Valve is in charge, while he is a libertarian, he's at the very least an ideological libertarian, so he does his beliefs matter to him, and he is a fervent believer that you should own what you own, so he tries to hold people pretty accountable, from what I understand. But the second he dies or retires, it's going to be up to shareholders to decide. Yeah.
Did you not put the dark red back? I feel like it got lighter.
It did, because I lowered the opacity, but if we crank it all the way up, it's like this.
Oh, okay. I see.
Oh wait, I lowered opacity on the wrong layer. Duh. That's
Oak is
too
gonna
low.
love today's drawing.
Oh yeah, we should share it with Oak.
Yeah. There, that's what I thought it was. Thank you
I'm
so much.
I'm gonna do some tweaking.
Squishy
Thank you so
Struggler.
much for being here, folks.
You guys just kick ass. We've had so much fun having this talk, and we love all your pitch-ins and your thinking.
People have brought a lot of good insight to this one.
Such a great community. I think our community is the coolest. Go and push everyone. I've decided to retire and do all of this full time.
Yeah, Mama wants to be a full-time YouTuber, so you got to go join the Patreon.
I'm going full-time.
I mean, you can if people join the Patreon. Until then, we are not making enough money to support both of us.
Okay.
Everybody.
I love this. I can't wait to see Oak Tea's reaction to this picture. I want this as a giant patch. No edges, no nothing. Just a giant patch on the back of a jacket.
I could probably do that.
That would be so cool. So let's talk about that.
We're starting the raid. Until next time.
I don't remember what we say for the struggling.
It's been lovely talking to you.